welcome everyone to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. I'm your host, TJ, and with me here, as always, is our NHL analyst and expert, the grumpy old man. They say there's no shame in his game because he's always the same.
That's me.
Oh, Grumpy, welcome. And with us today, Tom from the Belmont Bunch. How are you doing this evening, Tom?
I'm good. I got the Islanders game out in the corner of the screen. So, my mood will probably depend on that as well.
So let me ask you, are you in the cheering for the Islanders to win mode still, or are you rooting for them to tank? Where are you lying, Tom?
So I pretty much, last week on my own podcast on my channel, I kind of made the decision that I think we're just cooked and that you got to do what you can to sell off the UFAs, the pending UFAs at least. We have a lot of contracts that are tough to move. So I know that even if we choose the rebuild, retool route, it's not going to be easy. And with, Lou in the last year of his deal, there's a lot of uncertainty. I'm kind of leaning towards the tank right now because I'm a little bit afraid of what we spend if we decide to buy at the deadline. And we already don't have a great minor league system. So I'm a little bit nervous about not just this year, but the next 5 years.
There it is. It's in the tank down mode as well, Grumpy. It's good to see. And Tom was like that. I feel like this offseason too. He had that same exact thought process.
He made a bold prediction. He had a hot take.
He made the boldest of all predictions. He said his bold prediction, the Islanders were going to finish. They'd had a higher chance of finishing last in the conference than they did finishing first in the conference. And, I don't think we could possibly finish last, but his prediction's a whole.
There's no way we're finishing first. No way.
That is true. That's true. But before we start off the show too much here, for those of you who are new to the podcast, this is a twice a week All Islanders podcast that takes place every single Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're new to the channel, we invite you to stick around a while. We invite you to subscribe on YouTube, to like on Facebook, and to follow on Twitter. We also have a secondary podcast called TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. That could be found in the link in the description below, or as a featured page on our YouTube channel. It is.
Can you pull that up? Can you pull that up, please?
As I'm saying that, I'm in the process of pulling it up. That's correct.
Let's get pulled up because I want to ask Tom a question.
Oh God, Jesus! It never ends. But it is an all sports podcast that takes place every single Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every single Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We talk anything and everything sports. We talk NHL, NFL, college athletics, NBA, world football, MLB, anything and everything sports we talk about on that show.
Tom, let me ask you a question. You notice anything about that logo?
Yeah, the TJ is pretty big.
Not only is the TJ pretty big, the and sign is really big as well.
Yeah.
And then the stuff, that you have to read at the end, what they put at the bottom of contracts, the fine print, that's the grumpy old man.
There it is, Grumpy. We're seeing, there you are. Really fine print.
I think TJ's got the good agent here.
He sure does.
And Tom from the Belmont Bunch, you could find all of his links there in the description below, his YouTube channel, Twitter. You could find everything to find, the Belmont Bunch and Tom on the Belmont Bunch in the link in the description below. A must watch. You've got to go ahead and check out Tom there in the Belmont Bunch. I do a lot. Now, are you still doing the almost, I saw the last time you uploaded was a few days ago, about 5 days ago, but you do sometimes have almost every night or after the game, you do a post-game review, or used to at least.
Yeah, this year's been a lot more difficult. I moved to a new apartment. I got a new job. So it's been difficult to have that every night. But I'm trying to at least get my thoughts out. We're doing a podcast most Wednesday nights, pretty much every Wednesday night. This week, I moved it to Thursday because I was going to be on here. So yeah, you can still go to Belmont Bunch. We're doing podcasts pretty much every week. Filming on Wednesday night, comes out Thursday morning. But this week it'll be Thursday into Friday.
So listen, you guys, not only you have the Thursday, you've got the Wednesday live stream of TJ and the Grumpy Old Man, but when you go to work on Thursday, you're like, shit, hump day's over. I could kind of start to see the sunshine of the weekend starting to poke its little head out. You can listen to Tom on the Belmont Bunch. What, Grumpy? What?
You couldn't sell anything to anyone. You couldn't sell water to a guy in the desert dying of thirst.
Oh, Grumpy.
Terrible. Everybody, listen to Tom's podcast on Thursday mornings, Friday this week, but normally Thursday.
There it is. Okay, Grumpy. There it is. The pitch from the grumpy old man.
If you're coming in on a Thursday, you got past the hump day, and then,
I like that's how you think I speak.
You're on the train, and what was I talking about? Yeah, I'm TJ.
Is this like the NPR version of TJ?
Yeah, I was about to say I didn't know I spoke like that, but that's fine. That I take it, Grumpy.
Yeah.
So today's podcast may actually be a little different than most would expect.
No, it's not today.
What do you mean not today?
It's not going to be any different.
Oh, is it because the Senators just scored again and now the Islanders are down?
No. It was because Lou Lamoriello talked to the press today. And I didn't like what he said. Here's the thing. Tom.
We talked. Hold on, Grumpy. You're trying to tell me you're throwing a freaking curveball at the 11th hour. We talked about this yesterday on my way home from. We talked about what we were going to kind of how the tenure of the show was going to be. Now you're telling me something else. You're throwing a curveball at the 11th hour.
That's why I'm the fine print of the podcast.
Okay.
Watch out.
Tell me, Grumpy. Tell me what you said. It's not going to be any different. Why is this show not going to be any different today?
Because Lamoriello comes out and talks to the press today. And we know he's a liar, first of all, right? He's never going to tell you the truth. But I didn't like the fact that he called me, in particular, a Monday morning quarterback.
Oh, so
because I've been so far ahead of the curve with this guy. It's scary. It's like, here's the thing. I'm like Michelangelo, and he's like a kid with a crayon and a coloring book. One color. That's it. Monday morning quarterback. I've been telling him for 2 years we need to get away from this roster. Not good enough. Not good enough. I'm Sunday morning pregame show. I'm telling you what's going to happen before it happens. I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking. I'm Sunday morning telling you the way what's going to happen. And here today, I was going to. Everyone knows who's been listening to this show, Tom, a long time. They know I've been telling them what's going to happen. Now everybody's coming on to the grumpy old man bandwagon. TJ came on about 6 months ago.
Bullshit. I came on a year and a half ago, Grumpy. Stop.
Right? So now, come on, no problem. But here's the thing. I'm ready to go to the next phase. I've already proved what is going to happen, and we're seeing it now.
Okay.
But here's the thing. I want to go to the next level until I listen to this guy this morning.
For those who are unaffiliated, Grumpy, you're talking about you for a while, 2+ years, have been talking about how we need to start transitioning and phasing out some of the older forwards. It's not going to be a team that's built to have success over an 82-game season. You've been talking about needing to transition, that this team is a team that is cooked, just like Tom was saying earlier. This is a team that won't be able to compete for a cup. We've talked about it for a while. I jumped on board with you, Grumpy, about a year and a half ago. And now, and I want to ask Tom this, have you been seeing everyone on social media pretending like they have seen that this fall was coming? Oh, well, it's really easy to see that this fall has been coming for quite some time. And all of these sons of bitches, they know who they are, all thought that this team, we should run it back. This team still had enough left. Tom, you were one of the guests on the shows this offseason who thought, we need to start transitioning away too.
Yeah, I don't think I would have thought. It's funny because our record on its own doesn't look terrible, but the play on the ice is pretty bad, and it really, like, the effort doesn't seem to be there, which is really worrying. And I know Lou kind of we talked about, he kind of fell on the sword today and took all the blame by saying, oh, it's my team, I got to make it better, which is, like, I appreciated the sentiment, and he talks to the press so rarely that it was a breath of fresh air for a second. And then I was like, but this also probably could have been talked about last year. He could have said the same thing last year, and he would have been a little bit ahead of the curve. Of course, not ahead of Grumpy, who was a year ahead of that even.
I am the curve, Tom. I am the curve.
But I think even with him falling on the sword, I'm not impressed with Lane. The roster, it's not great, and Lane's not in a great position. But at the same time, Barry didn't have a great roster. Barry was able to get as much out of it as you possibly could, I think. And now it's really, sad to see. Maybe it's effort. Maybe it's just these guys just don't have it anymore because they look exhausted. They look like every goal they score. It's like you guys are big soccer fans. It's like watching a soccer team try to score. It's a mammoth effort to get one. And if you go behind by one early on, it just feels like the heads all drop.
He feels like 7.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is, early in the year, we were scoring at a good pace. And you could at least be like, oh, the defensemen are pinching, the Islanders are scoring. It's not pretty. It was looking like the Doug Weight Islanders for a little bit there. And you were wondering what the plan was. And I think the plan has revealed itself to be hope that Ilya Sorokin is God. And even then, we still can't win, even with him playing incredibly.
We had talked about earlier on this year when the season had started. We did have early success. We talked about, people had called us out for being extremely negative, specifically me being extremely negative
because you've always been a Pollyanna fan, a little boot-looking weasel like the rest of them.
I feel like I have been a barometer of what is being played on the ice and a barometer of truth, Grumpy, is what I wanted to say. But I know your reaction, how it was going to be. But I feel like a barometer of accuracy, at least regarding what we've seen on the ice, Grumpy, because earlier on this year, we talked about the way we're winning is not sustainable. We talked about it so many times, and so many fans came on here, and I stuck with my points despite being ridiculed on social media, despite even some of the listeners saying we're being way too negative, because you could see that certain things were not sustainable. Earlier on this year, we had a top 10 power play or top 5 power play in the NHL. Power play is abysmal. Nothing changed. We didn't change the system. We didn't change the style. We didn't say, hey, we're going to be running, quick moving, fast moving puck there, quick passes there, putting as many shots on target as possible. Our power play unit's pretty much essentially the same. The power play lines are essentially the exact same as what they were last season with no additions. We talked about these late third period comebacks where our team was consistently down a goal or 2 goals, and we'd find a way to climb up Mount Kilimanjaro. Grumpy, your favorite, Mount Kilimanjaro.
It's Mount Everest. It's Mount Everest. It's not Mount Kilimanjaro. The highest peak is Mount Everest.
Yes. So Mount Everest. I'm just saying not every peak was like that, but Mount Everest, we were able to climb Mount Everest, and it's just not sustainable. We had to rely upon fantastic goaltending and late game heroics to win every game. It was going to fade and fizzle after a while. We knew too that there were going to be deficiencies that Lane Lambert had that we were not going to be able to see early on in the season because teams were not able to identify them yet. But once you get enough film on it, and once you get enough game plan there to it, you're going to notice the deficiencies of a first-time head coach. And, I feel bad, and I'm not sure if you said this too, Tom, but I kind of feel bad a little bit for Lane Lambert. He's put in a situation where the team is no improvements to the team, and we're expecting, hey, Lane, all we got to do is take out Barry Trotz and plug in Lane Lambert, and that's going to fix all of our problems. Take out Hall of Fame caliber head coach Barry Trotz and plug in first-time head coach Lane Lambert, and that's going to fix the issues.
Okay, you went on so long. I wanted to address Tom's points, but I forgot what they were.
Do you mind if I jump in real quick? I wanted to say something off of what TJ was talking about that really worries me is you talked about teams having tape on the Islanders, and you guys probably caught this a few weeks ago when the Isles lost that really tough one to the Wild. Philip Gustafsson, 24-year-old backup goalie, is taking shots at the Islanders in the postgame saying the Islanders shoot from the outside. We weren't worried about the Islanders. And that, I hope that was a wake-up call. I hope that, the team, I mean, it wasn't a wake-up call on the ice, obviously. They've continued to lose. But, I was hoping at least their pride would start to show a little bit more after a quote like that. Because, in the NHL, you just don't hear that often. Like players calling whole teams out like that.
For me, I think that we are playing as well as we can play. Not defensively, but I mean, we've come out. I thought we played our first period against Toronto yesterday was about as good as we could possibly play. And like to your point earlier, Tom, it's not that they've lost it. We were never a team that was supremely talented. We were a team that was a blood and guts type team. You got to grind and grind and grind. When you're in your mid-30s, you can't grind like that anymore. Look at the Toronto game last night. They had a game plan. They're like, you know what? We're going to hit them with stretch passes all night long.
Yep.
All night long. And our defense just could not keep up. Adam Pellick looked terrible.
First game back after about a month.
Yes, exactly. So like I said, I'm going to cut that out due to rust. But I mean, Noah Dobson's a huge loss. We don't have anyone move the puck out of the back end. Except maybe Sebastian Aho. It's a problem. Like TJ, I know you think we have the defense. I don't think we do. Like I mentioned earlier in the year, I loved the draft last year. Don't know how it's going to turn out, but at least we were transitioning towards modern day NHL hockey with puck moving defensemen. Does Pulak do it? Does Pellick do it? Pellick do it? Does Mayfield? No. Does Romanov? Ooh, don't even get me started on him, right? Those guys can't move the puck. We're seeing Bolduc a little bit. He's starting to do it a little bit the last couple of games. I just think the big issue is we're really old in the forward group. And the fact that we had to incorporate our defense into playing offense, like the Doug Wade system, like you mentioned earlier, Tom, which really was no system. I think we're seeing that now. We're not even strong defensively. Excuse me. I think that's costing us.
So you had mentioned a few things, right? Hey, well, first off, Cam Talbot went out just injured for the Ottawa Senators. So maybe this is going to be the impetus the Islanders need to come back in heroic fashion to beat the mighty Ottawa Senators, Grumpy. Maybe that's what we're going to need to help push us across the finish line tonight.
Now,
but
do you remember what I said on Saturday? I even think last Wednesday. I figured we were going to lose to Toronto. Who did we play on Thursday that we lost? Boston, right?
No, Toronto we just played. Yeah, Toronto we just played. Thursday, sure, Boston.
Okay.
Or Minnesota. Who the hell? We lose so often. I can't remember who we lose to, Grumpy.
I remember I said last Wednesday's show, I said, you're going to see the sky really start to fall, not after Boston and Toronto, which I expected us to lose. I said, if we wind up losing to Ottawa, people are going to go in, they're going to go into a tailspin.
Yeah. Yeah. We had played. Yeah.
Like I said, you're losing to two of the better teams in the league. You lose to Ottawa. Watch out. And then Detroit, watch out.
We lost the Bruins, the Sabres, the Hurricanes, Toronto, and then we're losing right now to the Senators.
So what we were planning on doing on the show today, Tom, is we were planning to transition to the next phase, just to show everyone how much ahead of the curve. How can we save this franchise?
Exactly. Now that it seems like everybody is on, or at least it seems like the masses are on board with the thought process of the team is not good enough. We've served our purpose in that area.
New curve is starting. New curve is about to start.
I feel like we have been hammering it home for a year and a half, Grumpy for two, but a year and a half that the team is not good enough as currently constituted to win a cup. And so it seems that now a lot of people online are falsely saying, hey, they predicted this a long time ago. They didn't. But it seems like the people are coming around to the thought process of, the team is not good enough as currently constituted to win. The run it back crew, hey, we believe in this crew, and Lou, we trust crew. They're starting to possibly wake up. And now it's how do we transition from where we are now to success again? That's what we were planning on talking about today. Lou came out with those comments, though. I knew it rubbed Grumpy a little bit the wrong way.
Me off. Don't piss me off, Lou.
It rubbed Grumpy the wrong way, but I want to get back to a point you had addressed earlier about the team, right? Older, a blood and guts type of team. Think about this. If you headed into the season and said, your first line at times is going to consist of Casey Cizikas playing on the wing. It's going to consist of Simon Holmstrom playing on the first line, Josh Bailey playing on the first line. I'm not sure there's anybody in their right mind who would have said, oof, with the way we're going to construct things, that's going to be a recipe for success.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about that is I think some of the best forwards this year, probably the top three forwards have been like, all right, Brock has been cold recently. Brock had a good start to the year, but it really feels like Martin and Cizikas are like two of the top three forwards this year, just because they haven't fallen off in the way. It's sad to see Clutterbuck. Clutterbuck keeps getting knocked out of games. He's having trouble finishing games. Now he's on IR. It really, that contract by Lou, it's not a killer, but it doesn't look smart. Bringing back this guy that at the time was coming off an injury and, betting on a 34-year-old for 2 more years. Again, not like a killer contract, but just didn't I don't know. He just can't stay on the ice. That's not a great deal. And now watching the kids, I'm at least excited to see like Bolduc and Ratu. Ratu playing, by the way, his 10th game tonight, so he burned the contract year. That one I could go either way on. I think I was leaning towards you don't do it while you're playing him with
Thank you.
Martin and Cizikas. The funny thing though is then in the same sentence, Martin and Cizikas have been two of the better Islanders, but still probably not an ideal spot to put Ratu in. And I think Ratu was in a weird spot of like he definitely is good enough to be in the NHL, I think, but for the for a team that probably needs to covet its prospects and not burn years on their deals, I would have leaned towards not having him play that 10th game. If the team is as cooked as they look right now, don't burn the year. Keep an extra year of Vatu Ratu in Bridgeport, and Bridgeport kind of fell off too at the same time. So everything's kind of falling apart. But I do like seeing Ratu. I'm trying to be a little bit positive here, and Bolduc. It's been early. Wotherspoon had a little bit of a nice first few games. There's not a lot to be overly optimistic about. So
But no, Tom, don't feel like you've got to be optimistic. We're talking more just like, how do we get out of the hole? Because there is a way out, and that's always the point. There is a way. There is light. There is a possibility that we could find a way out of this, but it's got to be done right. And you had mentioned about Aatu Ratu. You're 100% right, I think, on that. He has looked, you see even tonight, he looks like a menace in his forecheck. He looks like he's very fastidious playing back checking.
Stop using the big words, all right?
Grumpy.
And usually get yourself in trouble.
You love when I do this, Grumpy. But I love what I've seen out of Aatu Ratu. He has shown me that is a guy who can play in the NHL. He's an NHLer, no doubt about it. But when you're burning at the first year of the entry-level contract on him playing and centering Matt Martin and sometimes Ross Johnston or whoever they want to throw in there as a fourth line guy, and he's playing like 6-7 minutes a night. I'm saying, what is the point of this? You could not have brought in Andy Andorf. You could have brought in anybody to play 6 minutes a night on a team that's losing if they lose tonight, right? It'll be their 10th loss in 11 games. You could have brought in any Hammenegger to do that, and you decided to burn one at the first year of the entry-level contract on Aatu Ratu. It just comes down to consistently the guy at the front. The general manager, Lou Lamoriello, does not care at all about what the future looks like for this organization. Only cares about as a present, which worries me.
Yeah, I think the scary thing about having a GM who is out of contract after this year, who is, as old as he is like, he's not going to be looking for the future of the franchise. And I really, if you don't want him back, right? If you're not going to re-up him, why would you let him stay around to start the rebuild? And I would bring in, it's a scary situation because with owners, I think usually the best owners stay out of it unless something gets really bad. I think it's gotten bad enough that the owners should step in and get another hockey mind. I'm not saying the owners should be like, Woody Johnson with the Jets and like, trying to ruin them at every chance they get. But I think the way that things are going, it's just clear that Lou's style, I think has, he got one last grasp at the cup. He almost got it. And now it's time to move on. It clearly isn't working with this core. And I think Lou should resign, because I don't see the Islanders firing him. It feels like a legacy thing. Like, oh, we got to let him stay around. How could you fire him out of his probably will be his last job? But you have to be cutthroat and you have to look out for the best interests of your franchise. And what if Lou makes a trade at the deadline that like a buying trade, and all of a sudden the next GM is stuck with maybe another bad contract, maybe an empty cupboard of prospects if they trade, good players to get like a Besser or Horvat or something like that. So it's a really weird position. And you talked about earlier, Lane being in a weird spot. It's weird to be a coach that's in your first year who's probably not going to get fired because you have to be especially bad to get fired in your first year. But to have a GM, the guy that hired you might be on his way out, and immediately the next guy has no ties to you. Yep. So it just, I don't want to bring it back to the Jets again, but the Jets for a long time would be off on their cycle of firing GMs and coaches. They finally got it together at the same time with Saleh and Douglas, which I usually think is the best case scenario. You have the GM bring in his guy so that there's no excuse of like, oh, well, he's not even my guy. And so Lane's in a bad spot with that, and the franchise is in a really, really tough transition point.
Yeah, for me, you said this is probably Lou's last job. I think he'd get another job somewhere like Walmart. They always have those greeters. And I think he could actually, he's probably not fit for that job. He's a little bit too crotchety, but maybe it'll help him out.
He would curse out the people on their way in.
He probably would.
Hey, how you doing? Go F yourself. Okay.
You know, we've talked about it before. You can't buy at the deadline. We've said this for the longest time. Worst case scenario for the Islanders, if you buy at this year's deadline. But I guess this is a good transition point into what Lou Lamoriello spoke about today. Lou Lamoriello came out and addressed the press. Now, Tom had mentioned it earlier on in the hour. Grumpy, how often does Lou Lamoriello address the press? Is that something he does often?
He comes out to talk to the press when he has to, because when the natives start getting restless, then he, pops up and does his Lou thing like he did today. And he hates doing that. He was tolerant, and I think he was enjoying himself because everyone was petrified to ask him any questions. I don't know. Was Steven Rosner in part of that press conference today? TJ?
I don't know if Steven Rosner was, but Stefan Rosner was.
So maybe he asked the question if he felt he should have reassessed his faith in the veteran group that was there.
They did. So they asked those. I've got a few things I've got bookmarked there, Grumpy. So we'll get to listen to them. And again, somebody made a comment. They tweeted at us, Grumpy, and it didn't mean anything to me. But I feel like to some of the how do you say, more well-versed, or the more well-rounded individuals on the show, maybe with a little bit more age and experience, more wisdom, maybe it meant something to them. We had somebody say this, Grumpy. Oh shit, did he take down that tweet? This is embarrassing. Oh, he says, I can't wait to hear you and Grumpy go over the missive from General Lamoriello, frame by frame, like the Zapruder films.
The Zapruder film. Do you know what that is?
The Zapruder film. I had to look it up.
Okay. It's not Zapruder. It's the Zapruder film. Do you even know what that is?
I looked it up. I would not have known beforehand, but Ted said this. And I was about to respond to him like, I know a few of these words, but I don't know what a Zapruder film is.
So do you know what it is now?
It's the one where the Kennedy got shot. Somebody filmed it. Somebody Zapruder filmed it or whatever.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay. Yes, that's correct.
So I had to look it up. So somebody was like, they were imagining like, oh, I can only imagine how much in depth they're going to go on this type of video. There's only a few things we pulled from it. Now, at the 1 minute mark, they start talking a little bit about the team. When is a good time to buy, sell? And a lot of Lou Lamoriello's answers are just all GM speak, unfortunately, but I'll let you listen to it.
He's Vic Vanilla in most of the stuff he says. Are you going to put it up?
Oh, shit. Oh, God. Okay, gotcha. Hold on a second. Thanks for the reminder, Grump.
No problem.
Okay.
He's looking old.
He is looking a little old. Look at that. He's looking a little old, I think.
He looks like he's going to kill whoever's asking.
I think from the outside is that this team is in a position or should be in a position to win right now. And for a long time, I think most people have figured that means you would try to add at some point. Does this team need to show you a little bit more before you decide that you might need to add to the roster?
Ed, why? Don't set him up with questions like that.
No, I think that.
Okay, hold on. Grumpy,
you don't feed him a buy question.
Okay, hold on. First off, just so you know, I'm having to jump the volume up on this. So when you speak, it's going to come through really loud. Just try to not yell because I want to.
Don't feed him. Don't feed that. This must be one of his lackeys in the press, one of the media cartel, one of the toadies that are just, yes, we bow to the altar of Lou. Woo! That's probably what it's all about, right? So he feeds him that question. I want some hard-hitting questions. I'd love to. They would never let me in the building, first of all.
Yeah, Grumpy, what do you think you'd have to do to get a press pass there, Grump? I don't even think there's enough connections.
I'd probably have to clip somebody as they were on the way into the conference and steal their pass.
Would you have to go ahead and put like some sort of like disguise on too, Grump? Because they know what all the members of the press look like. It's not like there's a million of them.
I bet there's not a whole lot of security there, though.
You never know. You
Maybe
never know.
Luca Brasi's there.
I'm going to
Maybe.
put the volume back up, so please don't go ads.
Well, when he says stupid crap, I can't control myself.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to jump the volume up on you guys.
Okay.
Give me a sec.
If we can make ourselves better, whether it been yesterday or the day before or today or tomorrow, we will definitely do that. It's at what the price you have to pay to add.
Can you
and
pause
you have
it?
to make sure that
Grumpy, can
Oh,
you?
he just said if he could do something to make the team better, he could resign. That would automatically make the team better.
You couldn't hold on to that comment for
No.
10 seconds.
No,
Oh,
you should let me talk over the top like Mystery Science Theater.
okay, if you talk over the top, Grumpy, it's gonna burn. Everybody's eardrums are gonna burst because I'm blasting the hell out of this because the audio is not great on this video. Give me 1 second. Let me put it back up again.
All right.
whatever you add is not subtracting. And I think if you look throughout the National Hockey League, you see the exact same thing. There's no excuses because that's on me, totally on me. That's my responsibility to make us the best we possibly can, to make whatever changes we can. That's not on the coaching staff. That's not on the players. And I take that responsibility. And it's making it happen.
Okay, we've heard enough of that. But whether he's going to add or buy stays somewhat, he answers in this sort of like vague generalities. Oh, anything we could do to make the team better, we're always going to do, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? What do you take from that comment?
For me, like I said, the fact that he would even consider buying, here's the thing. He's not stupid. All right. He's not stupid. He's not senile as much as I say that he is. He's not. He knows more about this hockey team than I do, than you do. Not as much as Tom, but certainly as much as you and I do, TJ. That's for certain.
That's true. That's true.
But I mean, the whole thing is he knows the right thing is not to try to refortify this team. We're not making the playoffs. That's not happening. We have been caught. I mean, I thought maybe we could hang on before any of these other teams that were sputtering took off. We're already caught. We're going to come in 11th in the conference, maybe 12th, maybe 12th.
Oh, we can't be that bad.
Maybe 13th.
We can't be that bad. Maybe last in the conference.
We won't be last. Sorry, Tom. We won't be last. Columbus is not good. Columbus is going to be last.
Oh man.
But for me, it's like it was kind of vanilla. What did you expect him to say, right? So, that didn't really bother me too much. I knew that's what he was going to say. He's like, oh, around the rest of the league. Well, everyone else around the rest of the league is able to make deals, bring in talent. When they see that their team's out of contention for a legitimate Stanley Cup run, they get rid of any pending UFAs and they try to reload. Not him, because we were in the same spot last year and he did nothing. Nothing. He could have kind of reloaded on the fly a little bit, but he chose not to. For me, those are the frustrating things.
What did you think of that, Tom? I want to get your opinion on that. He claims to take ownership and hey, it's his fault. It's on him, not on the players, not on the coach. Just kind of want to get your initial reaction to that.
It's the smart move, and it's cathartic for Islander fans to hear because I think most people would agree. Like, I have been tough on Lane, but this roster is really, short on talent. And that's a difficult spot to put a first-time head coach in. So I do think it's the smart move, as Brock Nelson just scored. I do think it's the smart move because it would be pretty – I think it would be incredible. It would cause just a revolt on Twitter if Lou were to not take responsibility for this. Because I think everybody knows, like, look, it's the roster mostly. It would be easier to judge Lane if we had a roster that we thought was capable, but I think it's just clear it isn't. And, I wanted to be a little bit fair and be like, well, we were missing Pelech and we were missing Palmieri, but I don't know how much a difference Palmieri makes. Pelech definitely makes a difference, but there's a fight right off the draw. I think it's good that he took responsibility. I think it probably should have started last year, and they shouldn't have hid behind COVID, and they shouldn't have hid behind injuries. I think it was clear the team was, falling apart last year.
COVID, the 13-game road trip, injuries, they changed up the protein powder flavor, anything and everything they could use as an excuse they did last year. But, He takes ownership. He says certain things, but you always got to read between the lines. I'm not sure where his mind is. Grumpy says all the time, well, he's not dumb.
He's not dumb.
stupid.
He's not stupid.
Okay. I've seen him execute the trade floor before. And when I look at those trades, I say, wow, this is a Devon Taves, 2 second-round picks back in return. Jean-Gabriel Pageau, we're giving up a first and a second, third line center. Norris Trophy receiving candidate, Devon Taves, 2 second-round picks. Okay, yeah, that seems like, I'm looking at what you receive when you sell and what you give up when you buy, and it's not encouraging to me. I'm just kind of worried a little bit, even if he's in the process of selling off pieces. Will he do the right thing? Will he be able to get enough value back in return for our pieces? That's what I worry about. I look back through some of these trades. He's not been in a situation like he's in currently where he could sell off some real, I would assume, right? If they're available at the deadline, Mayfield is probably one of the better defenders out there in the NHL that could be available at this year's NHL trade deadline. Varlamov, one of the better goalies, I'd say, that's available out here at this year's NHL trade deadline. And those are guys. You look at the sales he's had in the past there. When he sold a few pieces off of the Devils, he sold a few pieces off of Toronto. Not like this. Not guys on very manageable contracts. Not guys who could really help push a team forward to winning a cup. He'd sold pieces before, not at the deadline though. But there's some additional points too I wanted to bring up here. I had this screenshotted, so I'm not sure. Hopefully this is. I know what this point's going to be about.
Just one quick thing. Not saying that you're intelligent and you're smart doesn't mean that you should be a general manager of a hockey team at 80.
True.
That's why he gets fleeced, because he's 80. He's getting taken advantage. And if they would have listened to what I said and gotten a young assistant or somebody to come in to train as an assistant GM under Lou for a year or two, you'd have somebody who'd be ready to step in now, or somebody who could maybe advise him on trades. Hey, dude, we can get a little bit more than, Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac for a first and a fourth. Or we don't need to give up a first and a second for a third line center. I mean, and that's where I think the game is kind of passed him by. It's not like 1990, all right, or 95, whenever the Devils were, when he was in his 50s. He's in his 80s now. I mean, you're not as sharp when you're 80 as when you're 50. You're just not, or 30. And that's what I think the biggest issue and the biggest problem is going forward with him as GM.
You don't do regrets, but you've always had this strong belief in the core of your team. Is there any hindsight that maybe the roster could have, used some tweaks after last season?
Well, as I said, at that given time, if you could have made the team better, you do that. Have I lost the trust and belief in the team? Absolutely not. I still believe the way I did in the beginning of the summer, and I think we've all seen, more indications than not of what we can do.
What a mistake I made. That's what we've all seen.
Can you pipe down there, Grumpy?
I'd just rather talk over it. I'm going to answer how we should have answered. We just see what a mistake. Yes, I still believe in that team. And now you're realizing what a mistake that was, because we suck out loud.
Okay, hold on. I'll put it back on.
We're playing to our abilities. And also we have had some injuries, key injuries at different times. But I'm not a believer in excuses. These are facts.
Really? I just threw you on.
Hindsight and
he does that shit a lot. Do you remember last year he would talk
I'll
about,
throw the excuse out.
The excuse of COVID or a 13 game. I'm going to list all the excuses.
And then I'm going to say it's not an excuse. Which puts, okay, sure.
Okay,
it's so ridiculous. It's, you know what? It's like shampoo Lou. Wash, rinse, repeat. It's the same thing. Why don't these guys pick up? You keep on saying you're not about excuses. Why are you offering us up excuses? Are you trying to say that your injuries have been more pronounced than like Washington and the guys that they've missed all year long? I mean, all these teams go through it, right, Lou? Isn't that part of the game? Stop. Is Adam Pelech, if you had him in the lineup the whole time, does that mean you're going to score another 50 goals? Last time I checked, what's his career high in the season? 3? How much help is that going to be? Stop.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Continue.
thanks, Grove. It's like
And
you
this
got a lot of
goalie, here's the thing. We got lucky tonight because Talbot goes out and we got this sieve in net right now.
Anton
This Forsberg.
Forsberg.
He looks like a guy who just wants to spit. He just wants to spit out goals. He's terrible.
Anton Forsberg has got an 8.99 save percentage so far this year, so a little less than stellar. But hey, maybe we could take advantage of that. Hold on, we'll get to the last of this clip here, Grump. Anton.
Hypothetical will never get you anywhere.
How difficult is it to weigh potentially giving away draft picks, or not giving away, but trading draft picks or younger players for a team that isn't sort of on the playoff bubble that is, at this point could go either way?
Well, I think it's always difficult giving up any player or a draft pick because naturally, for you to make a transaction, it must be a player of value, whether it be to that team or a value to you also, because to allow you to make the transaction. So it's never easy. There's a lot of things you have to weigh in doing it. And those decisions you have to make at that given time. I think you've seen that we've given up draft picks when we felt that it was the right thing to do at that given time. And there are times that we did not do it because
we didn't have any more picks.
He sounds like a stammering old man. That answer. Seriously, when I heard
we didn't do it other times. We didn't do it other times because, we didn't have any more picks because I already pissed them away on lesser talent.
He sounds like a stammering old man on that clip. I was like, woof.
You can tell how long in the game he's been because, he just said a lot of words and
a lot of nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's part of what Lou does.
Yeah,
everything is in the shadows. And we enjoyed that when, he would pop out of nowhere. And at the time, I really liked getting Pajot at the time. And I think that one hasn't aged as bad. I think the Taze one obviously has aged really poorly. But yeah, the wall of secrecy that he usually puts up, it goes really well when the team's winning and you could joke about, you're not going to get anything out of Lou. But when they're struggling like they are right now, it's really frustrating. And I guess I'll give him a little bit of credit to be able to read the room finally and be like, okay, it's getting really bad. Even I have to talk about this to the press. The wall of Lou can't, stand much longer with how bad this is going.
But
I'm sure Lane appreciates it.
Yeah, but he doesn't answer any questions.
No,
he doesn't. He just speaks in these words that say these sentences that mean absolutely nothing.
He definitely went into this, the scrum, knowing that the main thing he wanted people to take out of it was, I'm taking, the blame for this one. And then not really any other question that came up, kind of just talking his way through it without really saying anything. You could tell this is just to, jump on the grenade, but I think the grenade exploded a year ago.
But he doesn't care because he has the undying support of the ownership group. It doesn't matter what he says. I mean, I just love how he says, well, for the people who, the additions that haven't happened or have happened, that's on me. That's not on the coach. That's not on the players. Yet no shit, Lou, because guess what? They don't make the deals. You do. I mean, you don't need to tell us that. I mean, is it just for you to get off the stage, or you think you'd throw in that line? Just stop.
I did like that that metaphor Tom put out there. They threw their grenade. The grenade blew up about a year and a half ago, and then he's trying to jump on it. The aftermath has already happened. He's like, I'll go ahead and take ownership for this one right here. Sure, there.
Lou, everyone's dead already. The grenade got everyone. The shrapnel's everywhere. You jumped on nothing. There's an ash pile.
Now, this is the little clip about playing Monday morning quarterback, Grumpy. That set Grumpy off. We were going to have a different type of podcast today. Maybe we'll still get to it. But this quote right here got Grumpy all hot under the collar.
Not for press or not to make it for the wrong reasons. It has to be made with the right reasons. And you have to take whatever criticism comes. And remember, unless you're in that seat and have the knowledge of what can or can't be done and why not, you can be a Monday morning quarterback, at any time. And I think that's what fans love. Social media has helped that a lot, so that you can express what your thoughts are. And I'm sure there's a lot of general managers out there and a lot of writers out there, and I respect that. and I
I
welcome
respect
that.
that, liar.
And you should be able to take both.
You can't.
And
Oh my God,
But-
he talks about taking criticism.
He's right about GMs though. I do the NHL video games and I do trades in that. And hey, I've won a bunch of cups, so I know what I'm talking about. I've won a
See,
lot
there
of
you go.
virtual Stanley Cups.
There you go.
Okay, when he talk, okay, it's not like playing Monday morning quarterback, right? I'm not saying this is what I freaking hate about it. When you see that players are traded, and you can see the value that was moved in those, and even picks, right? A first round pick is a first round pick. And you could see the value. It's not playing Monday morning quarterback. Everybody knew this team. Oh, correction. Not everybody. I keep saying everybody, but a select few knew this team was not good enough as currently constituted to win a cup. They knew that either you needed to refortify the team this offseason in a significant way, or you needed to start the rebuild process. We were in favor of the rebuild, but this general manager, oh, we're playing Monday morning quarterback.
I'm just
I
looking
guess
at
I wish we were in control there, because the Monday morning quarterback would already have us on the road to the retool.
you look at his outfit that he wore today. You think he was coming off of some covert op or something.
They're showing it now. Yeah, that's exactly. It looks like he's in The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah, it's like, what the heck? I mean, he needs a big fedora over the top of his head. Just stop. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I tell you, the Islanders slipping down to 11th. But we did want to talk a little bit about what needs to be done to put this team in the right direction, because we talked a lot about, how we got here. We've done that many, many podcasts, but now being the curve, right, as Grumpy would say, or being ahead of the curve. Quickly, one other thing.
Well, before we touch on what we want to do, I want to make sure you do the ad read first.
Okay, how long do you think it's going to take? You want me to do an ad read of 49 minutes? Okay, whatever, Grump. Sure, go ahead and pull it up. We'll do the ad read. Today's podcast is brought to you by DraftKings. 4 NFL teams, 2 conference games, and a few more shots to win big on the playoffs with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Counting down the Super Bowl 57, new customers can bet just $5 and get $200 in free bets instantly. Not a new customer? You can feel the conference championships thrills with stepped up same game parlays. Take your shot at an even bigger NFL payout and boost your winnings with each leg that you add up to 100%. So you could say, I'm expecting that Joe Burrows is going to throw for 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. You can go ahead and start adding those to the same game parlay, Grumpy. Download the DraftKings.
That's a mistake.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN. New customers can get new customers can bet $5 on the conference championship games and get $200 in free bets instantly, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Again, with promo code THPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes in the description for additional details.
I have a question. Now, So you bet 5 and you get 200 if you win?
You get 200 just in general in free bets.
And how much do you have to bet?
$5.
To get the
$5, you get 200 in free bets. Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I bet 5 on each team, and I'm sure to clean up, right? How can you lose? What are the odds?
Grumpy, that's why you go to the site to figure out what the odds are.
Well, I'm not allowed to. The warden doesn't give me any play money.
Grumpy, because we all know what you do with play money, Grumpy. So anyway, but I wanted to talk a little bit we talked about being the curve. Funny, I've had people who listen to the show reach out to us and say, by the way, it seems like, I'm using their verbiage, it seems like the mentality or the thought process that the Islanders locker room is like a country club is permeating to other podcasts and permeating in other areas. And I said, who said this a year and a half? We did, Grump. That's right.
Yeah, we did. I did.
Bullshit. You're
just a little puppet over there.
That what I am?
Anything intelligent that comes out of this show comes from me. Everyone knows it.
Okay. But it's funny. It's a lot of people are starting to say the same things we've been saying for 2 years now. And I feel like when you talk about Islander fans coming to realization and coming to grips with it, for those who were not listening, for those who were not prepared, it could take them a while to come to the realization that, guess what, guys? We're going to go through a retool. It's not going to be pretty, but we're going to go through a retool. We're already there. That's why we're ready to move on to what needs to be done to be successful. And Go ahead, Grump.
So what people should do now is they should get their pens, pencils out. And this way, by the end of the year, when they have to write some articles or something, they can just steal it right from the show like they always do, which I'm fine with. I don't care. Just give me the credit. That's all I want.
Oh, Grumpy, there's no credit to be given to us or you, Grumpy.
That's okay. Everyone who listens to this show knows the truth. That's why people should listen to this show all the time. You want to find out what's going to happen 6 months from now? Listen to this show. I'm just going to tell you right now. What should happen? Every single pending UFA should be dealt. Every single one. And I'm going to tell you what. Anyone of value, Brock Nelson. Bye-bye. Nice knowing you. Why? Because you're not going to be part of the solution going forward. I don't care. There's the guys you can't trade, right? There's guys you can't move. You can't move Anders Lee. You can't move Josh Bailey. You could move Pajot. I mean, it's one or the other, though. You're not going to totally decimate the team. I just think Nelson has more value than Pajot around the league.
That was the same thing I talked about with. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
And then you slot. Yeah, okay. Tom's allowed to talk, but not me. And then you can slot. You can slot Ratu as your number 3 center.
That's right. What I talked about with Phil's facts we talked about last week. You can't trade both. You've got to trade one, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think we've all been impressed with Ratu, and even more impressive. This is his first year in North America, period, and he's able to come up into the NHL and look really impressive. To me, that might mean he could be something special. It could be a top 6 center, which for us is a big deal. And it does, like you just said, it feels like to fill that hole, or to open up that hole, you move one of Brock or Pajot. And I think it's obvious that Brock has more value. I like Brock. But I think if you get a lot of value back for him, this could be the beginning. I don't know if it's your Jamal Adams trade and it's the trade that turns the franchise around because you get Sauce. But you have to start buying these lottery tickets in the draft. And we got to start drafting top-end talent, not just like, I'll give Lou some credit for a couple of good value picks the last couple of years, with Ratu being a second rounder, Bolduc. We'll see with Bolduc, but I think it's time just to have a top 10 pick and just get a fantastic, hopefully forward, a scoring forward, and to have that, you got to bottom out. And trading Brock gives you probably another first rounder to play with, and then all of a sudden now, who knows? You could get 2 first rounders. You could have a franchise changing draft like the Jets did.
And then let's say you move a Mayfield, who you would absolutely get a first round pick for him.
Yeah. I mean, the right-handed market is pretty, I think Phil put it up the other day on Twitter. There are a few good teams that could use a right-handed defenseman, and Scott Mayfield has playoff, he's got all the intangibles that GMs like. Oh, he's played in the playoffs. He's big. He's physical. He adds a little bit of offense, which has been, a nice surprise the last couple of years. That feels like it has to happen. Because maybe a first rounder for him.
I think absolutely. I think for Mayfield, first and a second. Varlamov, probably a second. Parise, second. I mean, trade Brock, a first, at least a first, a young player, and maybe a second.
Brock probably wouldn't be done until this offseason. Or maybe it's going to be done. Maybe it's going to be done. Here's the thing. I'm down for trading Brock Nelson. He's a guy who – did he score tonight, you said?
Yeah. He got one.
He's got 43 points in 50 games so far this year.
Which is impressive on the Islanders.
Yeah,
he can't score anymore.
He's going to be in the spot where he's going to have another career season. He's had fantastic year after fantastic year. And I agree. You can't get rid of the entire team, but you need to start phasing out. You need to start opening up spots for young players as we do. You got to start transitioning away. And Brock Nelson is going to get you your largest return. You have got to move Brock Nelson.
And because in 2 years, a lot of these older veterans are going to be out of contract. You're still going to have Anders Lee there ad infinitum. But everyone else, for the most part, is going to be gone. Palmieri will be gone. Bailey will be gone. Cizikas will still be here. But Clutterbuck will be gone. Martin will be gone. So, I mean, it's going to be a 2-year process. But if you have to be proactive, that's the big. You have to be proactive now. You've been reactive for so long. just keep on buying and buying, and not stars. You're just buying ham and eggers. It's not like you're getting, but hey, this guy's going to set up he's going to be a difference maker for us. How many legitimate scorers do we have on this team that you say, man, he gets a puck on his stick, he's going to shoot it and put it in the net? Just a couple, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who are the guys on this team with shoot first mentality?
Shoot first mentality is different than guys who can score. Those are two different things. Because I think Brock Nelson has them both. I think Barzal doesn't.
No,
I don't think Barzal has the shoot first mentality, but he could certainly shoot. And I think that a guy like Oliver Wahlstrom has the shoot first mentality. When he's hot, right, he's putting him in. When he's not, he's not.
It's Wahlstrom and maybe Palmieri, who you consider maybe sniper types.
You consider Palmieri a better shooter than Brock Nelson? Have you lost your damn mind?
Yes, I do.
What? Grumpy?
I do.
No. Tom,
I do.
Please give me some help, please.
No, yeah. I mean, look, I love Brock. I know he could be a little bit streaky at times, but that's pretty much everyone on the Isles. And he's the least streaky of the streaky guys. I think Brock has definitely, I would say, is the best shot on the team.
Yes.
You think better than Wahlstrom?
Wahlstrom, what scares me is I feel like we're turning him into a third line grinder. I think, the fact that he's not a great skater, it's like he can't get himself into position to get those shots off. When he does, it's great, but he's got to keep working on the skating, which is tough when he's not playing.
It's true.
So
we have a few guys on the team who really can't skate.
I think regarding, what the transition looks like, I still feel confident that a guy like Wahlstrom could pan out, maybe be a top 6 guy. I do feel confident. I feel confident that a guy like Atu Ratu, again, really early yet, but I feel like he's got what it takes. I feel like that's a guy who could be penciled in a number 2 center spot if he develops the way he's supposed to and continues to improve. But you're right. First year playing North American hockey, playing on the different size ice. And he's already jumped from the AHL, really the first full year, to the NHL, and he's looked competent. He looks like he is like a freaking dog on a bone, Grump, out there. And you look at the young defenseman. I feel like the defense is covered. I like what I've seen. Bolduc, still it's early yet for Bolduc, but I feel like you could see some signs there. I feel like you could see signs in Dobson for certain. I think Romanov don't get me started on him. He's definitely not the answer. But you've got Pelech and Pulak. You've got defensive pieces there. And goaltending, right, with Sorokin, he's there too. And it seems to be something that is swirling around social media now. People want to trade Sorokin in this rebuild. And I just cannot believe how short-sighted that is.
The goalie is the most important player on the team.
Yes.
It's like a quarterback in the NFL. And Pelech and Pulak, we are finished. They are finished. They're nowhere near what they were in 2020. Not even close. Not even close.
The Sorokin thing, it would have to get real bad for me to want that, because kind of like you just said, Grumpy, it is really difficult to get the goalie position, to get a guy in his prime and have him be there for a long time. And, we had such terrible goaltending for a very long time. We searched for so long. We finally got our white whale after a great year from Robin Leonard and Thomas Greiss, and a year or two of Halak being good. But we finally got a guy who is youngish. He came over a little bit later, but I think it was worth it to have a guy that comes over as the finished product rather than Spencer Knight, who, is working through his stuff, but he's like 21, 22. We didn't have to even see any growing pains for Sorokin. And as long as they don't burn him out, like I keep saying, like the Oilers did with Cam Talbot a while back, then I'm not trading Sorokin at all. I'm not even thinking about it. It would have to get real dark. Like, we can't move anybody else and we'll decide to move it. I just don't see a scenario where I would move him.
He's a top 5 goalie in the NHL. And if he played on a good team, you would be seeing him. Could you imagine him playing on a team like in Toronto? Or he would be a poster boy because of these fantastic saves, the cat-like reflexes, the acrobatic moves he has in net. He would be a poster boy, but he plays on a team right now who's had the last 2 years has been a bad subpar team. You can't market somebody in the NHL where it's like, oh, yeah, what teams do you play for? Oh, yeah, the team that's in the bottom third or bottom half of the NHL. It's really tough to market that. And, they're not going to throw money on something like that. But you talk about Sorokin. You've got to build from the net out. I agree with both of you. You do not trade a guy like Sorokin unless it's a prime opportunity. You may say, well, look at his age. Sorokin at the end of that contract should be 29 years old. And you want to sign a 29-year-old into a long-term contract? Goalies can last into their mid 30s, still being very, very successful and prominent netminders in the NHL. It's not like a forward or a defense or a forward where it's like, ooh, when they start hitting 30, it's like the hourglass is upside down. Goalies can last into their mid 30s and be really, really good and really, really successful, Grump.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the game that's going on today. The Islanders really picked it up from the 10-minute mark in the second period, totally dominated Ottawa, and the end of the period could not have come quick enough for them, to be honest with you. But we're starting the third period here, and Ottawa's having a little bit of a push to start third.
Okay. Is there anything you had to say about Sorokin about those comments, Grumpy?
I already made my comments on Sorokin.
Okay. Fair enough.
I don't need to follow up.
Fair enough. So we're all in agreement. Do not trade Sorokin unless the night gets extremely dark.
How many guys? I have a question for both y'all. How many guys are truly untouchable on this team? Truly untouchable. And what I mean by that is, I don't care what the offer you get, you're keeping them. There's only 3 guys now, just 3.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to say Dobson, Barzal, and Sorokin, and I'd agree. But here's the thing: untouchable and guys you're trying to move off and transition from are 2 different things. But I'll let you respond to that too, Tom.
Yeah, I think those 3 make a lot of sense. Those are like the young stars of the team. I guess I would add, and I don't think I would want to trade Ratu for anything right now. Not because I think he's the next Barkov or anything, but more so because it just wouldn't make any sense. We really need a youth infusion, and I don't think it would make any sense to trade him, even if you got like Tarasenko in the return. I really don't know. I think you have to factor in the fact that I don't know how many other Islander forwards in the minors are like percolating and are ready to come up. Ratu's pretty much the only center right now that we're excited for it. I hear good stuff about Ishikov every once in a while, but he's also very small, and I don't know how that would translate to the NHL.
And I think you're right there. Again, like I'm not for trading young guys who we're in a process that we think they could be the answer, like a guy like Katsurada. But untouchable is, I guess, again, like as I mentioned, different than that. But you had talked about. Or we talk about the transition. You're right. Guys like Ishikov, guys like Dufour, right? You use draft picks, you have them, you hold them in certain regard. You've got to see if those guys can provide, the answer for you. I think Ratu is a guy who will be successful. I think a guy like Bolduc could possibly be that. Way too early to tell yet on him. But it's like, can Ishikov pan into being, a decent winger? Can a guy like Dufour pan into being a decent winger? Slow, but can he work on it? Can he improve? Can Oliver Wahlstrom continue to improve? If guys like that take the steps forward they need to, the rebuild is a lot shorter than you think, or the retool is a lot shorter than you think. You're going to have to get involved in free agency in the offseason because you're going to have cap space. You're going to have to still put a somewhat competitive team out there on the ice. You can afford to go after guys in free agency now because you're not going to have all this cap money tied up.
And I think you buy out Bailey too, because you pay the guy for double the years that are left when you buy him out. And Bailey's got 1 year left after this, I believe.
Yeah, I think after this, he's got 1 year left next year. Yeah,
So I think if you buy him out, you're willing to pay him half of his cap for those 2 years. I'd be willing to do that. I think at this point he doesn't add anything to the team whatsoever, and buying him out gives you an extra few million to play with. Not a lot, but a little bit. And I think every dollar is going to count. It obviously is not easy to get free agents to the Islanders.
Now, these are the scary things that should strike fear into every Islander fan's heart. Now, this is from Elliot Freeman. Somebody told me that they heard the Islanders were looking around at Jacob Chikrin. So apparently beating down that door again. Again, Chikrin's a younger defender, but what do you think it would cost to get this year's draft is so unbelievably deep. It is so deep. You can find a lot of talent. This is supposed to be one of those generational type of drafts where you can find talent in late 20s, mid to late 20s. That could be guys who are consistent top 6 guys that are fantastic everyday NHLers. And we're talking about, Elliot Freeman says, we're hearing that the Islanders, maybe, I heard from somebody that the Islanders may be looking around at Chikrin. Chikrin's going to cost something. And just like you need to make sure you keep your draft capital. We have not had a first-round pick in the last 4 years. We cannot afford to continue to give up draft capital for freaking current NHLers. The team is on the decline.
I think the way I read this quote too is I read it like Elliot saying, someone told me the Islanders are looking at Chikrin. Like I read it almost like even Friedman is laughing like, oh, that's not what they need. Because I think they went on to say that in the podcast. They were like, I think they should be devoting those resources to forwards because it's not like we have a ton of trade capital. And why would you direct it at something that is not as big of the issue?
True.
Like scoring on the back end. It's funny because Lou talked about that coming into this year. He said, oh, we're going to get better scoring by scoring from the back end. I mean, other than Dobson and a little bit of, Mayfield has 5 goals. That's something. Romanov has an added offense. Romanov's kind of fortunate that Chara was the guy before him because everybody just compares him to the Chara, which is a low bar to clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he's been very disappointing this year. Very disappointing.
He is. And like you talk about, man, what moves there by the Ottawa Senators. But you talk about it, us requiring our defensemen to try to generate more offense. It's the reason why, right, we're 3rd in the NHL in goals scored by defensemen, but it's the reason why our goalies keep on facing so many high danger chances because we're asking our defense to try to create more offense because our forward group is just not good enough to do it. And it's if we could rely more upon our forward group, we wouldn't require a defenseman to be so offensive oriented, which would then result in less goals going into the net.
If we didn't have Sorokin in net, we could have a guy like this Forsland fella.
Bottom 5 in the NHL.
I mean, he passes every puck to the Islanders. Every one. I mean, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's terrible. The Islanders are going to win this game. I feel confident.
Ottawa's trying to hand it to us, so I can see it.
Yes, they are.
But yeah, I think that if we had better forward group, Grump could kind of get back on topic. Yeah. I don't think we have to ask as much from our defensemen.
For me, the toughest thing to get is high-end talent in the offensive side. That's the toughest thing to get. And that's the thing that, Lamoriello, he's always gets more of these ham and egger blue collar guys. They're the easiest things to find. You don't give away first-round draft picks for 3rd and 4th liners. You just don't do it. And that's something that he does, right? And now you pull up the screen here about the Islanders have reached out.
Jeff Merrick, let's go ahead and give it to who it is, right? Not just some ham and egg or some random person line. Jeff Merrick says the Islanders have reached out to St. Louis regarding Vladimir Tarasenko.
Why? He's 31.
On an expiring deal.
No.
That, again, like we worried about, would he be looking to double down on a team that obviously is not making the playoffs? That's past their peak. When you hear him going after Vladimir Tarasenko, 31-year-old on an expiring contract, that should scare you.
If you move some guys off, and again, the same thing I said in the offseason, you can't bring anybody in. You got to move till you move some guys out. There's too many of these fat cat contracts, the cul-de-sac crew, as I like to call them, that are just here forever and ever and ever. You have to get rid of them before you can bring in a new talent.
I still don't know why the Kraken didn't take Tarasenko for free.
Yeah, me neither.
He had those shoulder surgeries, and even though and that's why I said too, the guy swore up and down that he got the shoulder injury fixed. He found the issue. They didn't believe him, and so did many other teams. And they could have had Vladimir Tarasenko on the cheap.
Yeah, I know Vince Dunn's had a good year, so at least now it's starting to work out a little bit. But yeah, and I will say at least the Tarasenko thing makes more sense than Chikrin, only in the fact that it's a forward. At least it's like, oh, that would address scoring. But like you guys said, we're not in the position to risk assets on a rental. No. I don't think we would re-sign him. We've had trouble bringing, we've had trouble retaining top end talent like that. Even though for some reason the guys we trade for then tend to sign extensions. I wonder if that's like a stigma, an anti-Long Island stigma. Some of these guys that are not familiar with Long Island, Johnny Gaudreau, Panarin a few years ago, guys that maybe think Long Island is just like like farmland and suburb, but it is very close to the city. I know Panarin talked about, oh, I wanted to be in the city. I'm like, buddy, you could have been a train ride away.
You're on the block. You're
And
practically around the block.
yeah, and playing for an Islanders team, which at the time was a little bit closer to a cup than the Rangers. And yeah, the Tarasenko thing, that's something that I think every Islander fan wanted 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah,
And
not now. Not
it
now.
would be hilarious if now he ended up one and now we're angry because
He's not
it just
the same
worked
guy.
out that way.
And he's played well. He's played well this year as well.
Yeah, he's in a weird situation where he requested a trade like a year and a half ago, and nothing ever happened of it. And hey, now the Blues are terrible, and there's no reason for them not to move him.
But
I'm really curious to see where he goes.
look at St. Louis, right? Okay, we're not going to be contenders this year. Ryan O'Reilly's on the block. Tarasenko's on the block. That's something that the Islanders need to do. I mean, it's just common sense. I just want to finish the rest of Jeff Marek's comment. It takes so much energy for the Islanders to score a goal. By the time they score, they look exhausted. Then if a team scores right away after that, they just look defeated. Like when you have to grind for every single goal, the games are hard. And we've been saying that for years, right? That was the Barry Trotz system. When you're not talented, you have to grind for everything. You can do it over the course of a 48 or a 56 game season, but over 82, really, really difficult. And you saw every single year, we started off really good. Towards the end, we kind of were hitting the wall a little bit. And now that the guys are older, it was never going to work. Now, like I said, the non-system system under Lane Lambert, I do feel bad for him. He's put in a no-win situation with this roster, to be honest with you. I just find it just a little bit unfair to him. And if they do have a new GM, see, what I'm afraid is that they give the GM spot, that Lou steps upstairs and he gives Fredo Lamoriello the GM spot, which I think would be just an unmitigated disaster. And I'd feel bad for Chris, to be honest with you, because he'd have no rope. Absolutely no.
Yeah, that would be, I guess it would be the easy thing to do because he's already in the system, but it wouldn't make any sense because, I mean, look, what has Bridgeport done in the last decade?
Nothing.
I know he hasn't been there a decade, but man, I don't know. Bridgeport has been a mess for a while, and it looked like they were maybe coming out of it at the beginning of this year. And maybe you could, you give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt of losing Ratu to the Islanders, to the big club, and losing Holmstrom to the big club, and now Bolduc. But yeah, I don't know about Chris Lamoriello taking over. It would be too, I think, very obviously like a nepotism.
Yeah.
Either.
Well, not like there's any nepotism in sports.
Yeah. I mean, and not even like nepotism wise, but we just recycle coaches. I mean, Rick Tockett's got another contract now. It's hilarious to see, how many times coaches get another shot, even when they're not good.
Yep.
Bruce Gaudreau. Well, he was a Hall of Fame caliber coach, isn't he?
He did win a cup one year, didn't he? He won a cup with Anaheim, right?
Yeah, he's had a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
He's had a couple of those Anaheim teams after winning the cup that I remember they would just lose home game sevens like every year for a few years. But hey, I mean, at least they were getting there. That's not much solace to an Anaheim fan, but
he won a cup in Boston too, didn't he?
No.
Okay.
No, I think that was called Julian.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough.
It looks similar.
Yeah, they're both. I feel like a lot of hockey coaches look like that.
Yeah.
But this is a game to where, as you mentioned, right? If the Islanders lose tonight, I'm just not sure anybody can be positive on the outlook of what things look like this year. But if you are able to start transitioning away from these older players, you can't do everything at once. But if you at this deadline trade away everybody that's on an expiring deal and start proactively looking to trade a guy like Brock Nelson to get serious return, you're going to have quite a few draft picks in a year to where there are an unbelievable amount of talent that you can find in this year's draft. And is Lou Lamoriello the answer going forward? I'd say probably not. No, he needs to be transitioned away from too. We've talked about that for a long time, but that's what they need to do here.
They should have already started that process by bringing a young guy to train a year under Lou, saying, you're the GM in waiting. He's leaving after this year, and we want you to step in and be the GM after that. That's what they should have done. Let him learn the team on the fly so we know, okay, I know I'm GM next year. I'm going to be studying all these guys, see who can be part of the solution, who can be part of the problem, who could, who's worth keeping going forward. What is the plan going forward? And he could have done that and without Lou's eyes in his ear. Well, you need to keep this guy. Just clean slate and just say, you know what, I'm taking notes on what I'm doing. That's what I wanted to see. And of course that didn't happen.
Never does, Grumpy. You're just playing Monday morning quarterback. That's all you're doing, Grumpy.
Like I said, way ahead of the curve here. Way ahead of the curve.
Oh man. Let's start getting through a few comments here. We're not going to be able to do all the comments. There's way too many comments, of course. Anthony Rizzi saying, I love it. We're currently 12th worst team in the league, losing to the lowly Senators. You guys said we wouldn't come close to being in the race for Bedard. You're wrong.
No, you got to get like top 4 to be in the real legitimate race for Bedard.
You maybe, I mean, like, think about it. It's the weighted average. So maybe if we're sitting at, 7th or 8th worst team, maybe we could win the race for Bedard. Crazier things have happened before.
I think we're an Ilya Sorokin, injury away from Bedard race. And God, I don't want to speak that into existence because I don't want Ilya to get hurt. I want him to, soak in all the wins and all the stats he can. I don't know how many wins are going to come, but the stats are there, the save percentage and the goals against. I want him to get his due, but my goodness, how bad would it be? No, this isn't even a slight on Varley, but how bad would it be if Varley was the everyday starter?
The season would already be over.
Yeah, and he's not even a bad goalie.
No,
he's clearly not in his prime anymore, but things would get really, really ugly.
He's not Sorokin. I can't tell you how many points Sorokin has stolen. Way more than 4.
Tony Cheese is bringing up a common referral from last year.
Must win time.
We could just copy and paste that comment every game.
That's
what we do.
That's what Tony Cheese did all last year. Paulo C saying, yep, guys, the tank. The problem is the captain of the ship doesn't want the tank. Oh, God.
Mutiny.
Oh, man. Anthony Rizzi said, if we come in the 10th worst team, we've got a 3.5% chance of getting Connor Bedard. But hey, if you see your odds get much better, if they see us maybe the 7th or 8th worst team at the end, just watch. We could be in a better spot, Grump.
Yeah, I just think, okay, yeah, a 3.5, even a 5% chance. You got to get top 4 to really, the ball could bounce your way, but you want to have more balls in that hopper as well, right? Top 4, okay, we got a legit shot. But if you're 10, 9, 8, chances are you're not getting him. And you're not moving up at all either.
Oh, man, I tell you, Grumpy. I'll read some of these comments. There are some Islander fans that are out there that are, I tell you, some fans are just so unbelievably angry with the team. I feel like I'm getting a lot of hate there, Grumpy. I'm getting a lot of fans who are unhappy with the team. A lot of fans who are unhappy with TJ tonight. But hey, it is what it is. Anthony Rizzi says here, even when we play decent, we lose. Why? Like Grumpy said, not enough talent. The signs are there. This is going to get ugly. Mark my words.
It's already ugly.
It doesn't have to be ugly, though. There's still a way out. I firmly believe there's still a way out, Grump.
This year?
No, not this year. I'm saying there's a way out where it's not going to be a 5 or a 6 year rebuild where we're nuking it from the ground up. I think that there's a way out to where we can have this team retooled in 2 to 3 years.
If you have the fossil in charge, it's not happening.
Well, I'm not. That's one of the steps, right? He's got to be gone.
Mm-hmm. I think hopefully we made the case tonight that there are enough young guys with promise that, like you just said, this isn't like absolutely nuking it. This is giving giving opportunities to young guys.
Yes.
And also, opening up to the lottery a little bit. How many picks can you compile?
I've seen a lot of people who are trying to, I don't know, maybe like grasp at the thought that we can just revamp this in an off season. Well, maybe
No.
if we just restructure it, we could be back. And if we do this, we make this trade and we get Horvat, or we do this and we sign Meyer, or we do this and bring Brock Besser, and we could be ready to compete again. And it's not that easy. That's not a possible scenario.
This team isn't a Timo Meyer or now. Here's the thing. Do I think we should go after free agents? Yeah, but we got to move guys out. That's the whole thing. You got, and again, anybody 30 years old, I'm sorry. Don't even tell your agent not to even call me.
Unless you're Ilya Sorokin.
Yeah, I'm talking about free agents from other teams.
Yeah.
I don't even call me. You're 30, sorry. Go somewhere else. I don't care if you bought a house on Long Island. I don't care if your girlfriend lives on Long Island. I don't care about any of that. You're not playing for our hockey club. You're too old.
Yeah. Grumpy, too old. Grumpy, age discrimination. Grumpy. James F. They're saying season's done. John Smith saying, no, we suck again.
It's like, oh no, we suck again.
Frank Hayes said, this team is dreadful. I'm running out of things to say. I opted out of my season tickets for next year. Not worth it. Much cheaper buying by game day.
And he's fully within his rights to do that because the product is not fun to watch. And that's the point of sports is to have fun watching your team. The thing that scares me is, the owners seeing stuff like that and being like, oh, well, you know what? Why don't we continue to buy at the deadline? Let's go get Tarasenko, Lou, because we got to sell some season tickets and give some hope. Hopefully they don't get that out of this. But it does scare me, the idea that it is a very new arena and they probably are reluctant to go into a rebuild, retool, because they want butts and seats in this brand spanking new arena. And that could lead to some short-sightedness.
The thing that I always think about too is this is right ownership. It's a long-term investment. You spend hundreds of millions of dollars building a new arena. You're not thinking, hey, what does it look like for the next 2-3 years on return on this investment? They're thinking long-term. What are we going to, unless, right, they're the property brothers where they don't care about the success on the ice, but they want to make it like, oh, it's a great environment. I'm going to sell it to the next person we're going to sell this team to. The property was more valuable than the actual franchise. That's the only chance where I could think, right, if you see them making this push to stay relevant these first few years, they're the property brothers. Don't don't confuse the information. They're the property guys. They're the property brothers, Grumpy. You love that.
I hate when you say that.
Oh man. But you're right. Maybe if they go ahead and put in maybe $100,000 more into the lottery, then maybe I'll buy season tickets. If you were on the fence and on the borderline going into this season as to what to expect from this year, when you're freaking ownership, when ownership has to try to convince that, hey, you should buy season tickets because we're going to go ahead and buy lottery tickets and you could be entered in. We could share the profit from the lottery if we win it. That should be all you needed to know about the enthusiasm for the team going into this year. That's all you need to know.
You can't be shitty and boring. You can be one or the other. You can't be both. You can be boring and win. Fans are going to come. You can be crappy but exciting and fun to watch. People will go.
The Doug Wade Islanders,
yes,
7-6.
They tell me they were fun to watch.
Yeah,
they were fun to watch.
You knew it wasn't good, but you were at the same time you were like, do I like watching John Tavares score 4 times tonight? That's pretty cool.
Now, if you suck and you're boring, there's no reason for anyone to go.
Yep.
And you have a GM who's 80. Do you know how old that is? It's like 80. It's like
I wonder if the a lot of stadiums nowadays are turning more into like hangout spots than like a place to watch the actual game on the ice or on the field. And I wonder if it's like a backup plan for these owners now. Like, oh man, if the Islanders do fall off, our backup plan is 18 bars in the Heineken Lounge, for UBS. I don't know. That was something that was brought up recently about baseball stadiums getting, turning into like resorts where you don't watch the game. You just just hang out for a while.
Hey, it's $2 beer Wednesdays.
Yeah, the whole thing is, baseball can lend itself to that just by the pace of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Who goes to a hockey game I don't know. Here's the thing. like the Golden Girls would be hanging out with Lou at UBS Arena.
At the Heineken Lounge.
That's it.
Oh man.
Or the pink flamingo lounge. I don't know.
Jesus Christ. I tell you. Got another comment here from Anthony Rizzi. He's saying, even if Lou was stupid enough trading for help, the market is nuts. Asking price for Meyer is a 2023 first round, a second rounder, and at least one top spec or one top prospect. Horvat is a first rounder plus. Chikrin is 2 first rounders per Arizona. Could you imagine us? Ding dong. Hey, we're looking to go ahead and trade for Jacob Chikrin. And we're going to trade our first round pick this year and next year.
I'm going to walk into the Long Island Sound if we do that. I'm just going to walk into the Sound and see how it goes for me.
You want to talk about how long it takes to rebuild? That would take the quick retool of 2 to 3 years. It would say, hey, we're 10 years. We're a decade away from being successful.
Okay.
Nuke it.
If those are the asking prices for players, why would you not sell?
Yeah, absolutely. More
why
reason.
Would you not sell?
Scott Mayfield in that market, like you said, first round pick. Varlamov, probably a second. You know what? Why don't we play Varlamov more? Hope he plays well and up that trade value. And I think Parise, we need him to get a little bit hot too. There's no reason not to trade any of those guys at all. Like Scott Mayfield, I don't know if he's going to take a team-friendly contract when his most recent deal was extremely team-friendly. He is due big bucks, not like a crazy amount of money, but he's due an upgrade.
$4 to $5 million, I think, at least a year he could earn. He's making 1.4 now. He's entering his near 30s. He's a guy who's had postseason success. He's come in as a top 4 guy, and on most teams in the league, he's a top 4 defenseman. He's going to get paid $4 to $4.5, maybe $5 million a year.
You got to take advantage of that situation and that market. And again, like, is it going to be like as good? I talked about earlier, like the Jets with Jamal Adams turning that into Sauce and Garrett Wilson. Yeah, probably not that. But you have to give yourself a chance at something like that.
He's going to be 30. He's a bottom pairing defenseman for us. There is no way you sign him back. I don't care what value what type of bonus he's going to give you or discount. Do you think it's going to be anything less than 3.5 or 4? You don't. He's a bottom pairing defenseman, just like you don't give your 4th line center a 6-year deal. You just don't do it.
Hey, that's the second best forward on the Islanders right now, I'll have you know.
And here's the thing. He has had a really good year. Really good. That being said, he's a 4th line center. No.
I want to travel back in time to the year he scored 20. That was so much fun.
I can't. That was a long time ago, and that's his career year. That's it.
We got here a comment there. Frank K saying hire D-Cut as general manager. Wouldn't that be something? Freedom, Fun, and Adventure. Grumpy's got a comment. I'll let you read this, Grumpy.
Good evening to all. TJ, tell your little monkey brain to tell your little monkey fingers to type on your little monkey keyboard and look up Toronto huge and skilled left wing Matthew Nyes.
My monkey brain doesn't work that well, Freedom, Fun, Adventure, but Matthew Nyes, he played well, wouldn't you say? I thought he'd look good for Toronto.
And Toronto could use a right-handed defenseman, Scott Mayfield. Maybe a little spice in the Scott Mayfield trade.
Yeah, I was about to say. And we got a comment here from Anthony Rizzi says, fire Phil's facts. Hire Tom for Belmont.
Well, I don't think we disagree on too much. I think Phil would fully agree with the sentiment on Mayfield. Definitely, I think Phil is in favor of trading Sorokin. Yeah, I don't know, but I don't want to misrepresent him, so I don't know if he means this year. Like I don't think it makes any sense to do it this year or next. I mean, maybe if it gets to the point like, oh, I don't think I'm going to re-sign in a couple of years, then it would make sense to trade him. But right now, I think that would just be setting a retool back to a full rebuild.
If you trade away Sorokin, you're blowing it from the blow everything up, because if you don't have Sorokin, it doesn't matter how good the defense is. We have found out this year the games we win are all upon the backs of fantastic goaltending. It's not like we're winning games because, hey, oh, wow, our offense was fantastic or our defense was, stunning out there. It's because we've had fantastic goaltending.
Or the other team's goaltending is so brutal.
That's what I'm saying. Couldn't you imagine if we had average goaltending like the majority of these teams we see in the NHL, right? Average goaltending is fucking miserable. It's hard to watch.
It is pretty bad.
This Forsberg looks like me in net. He sucks. As a matter of fact, I think he played early in the year and we beat them. And this piece of living shit was in net then too. He is
You like
horrible.
how he was laying on the ground after he faced the shot.
And he wouldn't get up. I'm like, get up. Get up. Look
The
at this.
Islanders-
He's just
the Islanders-
flopping around out
Andrew
there.
Gross said Forsberg had a couple tremendous saves to keep the Senators
It
ahead.
just hit him.
2-1.
He can't catch a cold. He goes to catch, everything bounces off. He sucks. This is why you got to keep Sorokin, because this is the type of guy you'd have in net. I couldn't watch that. Honestly, I couldn't watch that.
Nick C says, mock trade. I want your opinions on it. The Islanders trade Varlamov, Mayfield, and Parise for maybe 2 firsts and a second and a 3rd round pick. Flip the 2 firsts for Timo Meyer.
No.
The reason I brought this.
No, Nick, no. Stop.
The reason.
I will say at the very least, you're like, it's better than the Tarasenko rumors, because at least you're bringing in a guy that you could keep around for a little bit.
But it's a full on. This is a full on. We need a different. We cannot. It's not a one off season fix.
No,
or like a trade
we're not one player away. We're not 2 players away. We're not 3 players away. We're a lot of players away.
Yep.
No,
Tony G says Tom already has so much more energy than Phil's facts. I bet he's much nicer on Twitter too. Yeah, I'm sure he is. There it is. Phil's facts. You gotta watch out. Phil will mess you up on Twitter. Gungun says, if it rains on Sunday and the field is money, is it acceptable to refer to Brock Purdy as Dirty Purdy?
Probably not.
I like it, like the 30-30. Islanders have officially lost in regulation. Islanders now have 1 win in their last 11 games. Yikes, ladies and gentlemen.
1 goal against Ottawa.
Ottawa,
and here's the
classic defense.
Ottawa's freaking bad.
Yeah,
Ottawa had to put in their backup goalie
bad. They're bad. Ottawa's that. Like I said, I've been eyeballing the game a little bit. They're horrible.
Yeah, they tried to give the game away as best they could.
They could not make a pass. And I thought we played hard. We're just not good enough. Just not talented enough. It's the same thing I've been saying for years now. Just not good enough.
The Ottawa Senators have 3 games in hand on us, Grumpy, and they're only 6 points behind us.
God. All right. Yeah, we're in it for Bedard. We got a shot here.
I was about to say, like, you look at this, we're full on. We should be rooting for the team to lose every game from here on out. We should be rooting.
That's why I'm not like
headline.
Like it's hard for me to go full, like, not even root for the team, but we're about as close as I can get to that, which is like, so I'm rooting for us to win coming into the game, but when we're losing, I'm like, I guess it's not the end of the world.
It's the necessary evil. I don't like rooting against the team, but it needs to be done. Frank K says, good luck to the ticket agents trying to sell fans on this crap. If they lose more season, they will lose more season ticket holders. These owners are a joke, mostly Malkin.
I think they like the best strategy for getting butts and seats next year is like, you got to find one of the players on the Islanders and turn him into Zach Wilson. What I mean by that is you turn him into the MILF Hunter. You like all the hype for Zach.
Hold on. Are you trying to say that we get somebody young, send them out into the neighborhoods to hit all the married women in town?
Yeah, I think we got a couple of young, good-looking guys that could possibly do that, and I think the fun thing about that is look at Zach Wilson with the Jets this year. Yeah. All of the hype coming into the year, it wasn't anything on the field. Nope. It was all, man, that guy bangs his mom's friends, and that's really cool. I'm gonna buy a T-shirt that says that. So we got to find a young guy. Barzy still hasn't tied the knot.
He's got to go.
I volunteer him.
No, maybe no. Here's the thing.
How about Bo?
Okay, yeah, okay.
Bo's traded this year. Bo's
for sure. But you know what? We'll keep Bo around if he's willing to be the Zach Wilson for the team and cut his pay by $3 million.
And what they can do, they can have like a camera follow him around and when he's going to neighborhoods, see if he's got lucky or not, if they invite him in, and then show it like during the intermissions of games. I actually kind of like that idea.
Yeah, they'd have Shannon be like, "Hey, here's the weekly Bo speaks French to a hot girl and sees
I'm
how
gonna
it goes."
Tom, I'm going to steal that, and I'm going with that idea. Thank you.
I
And
do like
I'm giving you credit now, but probably never again.
Mm.
But just know you were the impetus for it when you hear it next.
the only stipulation that you're allowed to stay here.
Anthony Bavillier, MILF Hunter.
MILF
I love
Put him
it.
like in a cap with a
Oh
gun.
God, he just make that a reality TV
Yeah,
show.
absolutely.
TLC, they'll pay
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
And then the final episode will be him finally asking out Anna Kendrick.
There you go.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
there it is. Nice full circle.
You've got your season finale already.
He's, it's true. Just looking at Frank's comment, though, it's hard for ticket agents to sell tickets when you see the product on the ice. We don't go to any games. We don't live in the area. I don't know about you, Tom, if you ever go to any games, but it seems like there's a lot of empty seats every game. And the ownership cannot be happy with that. They just can't.
We
Be nice to your agent at least. It's not their fault.
It's not their fault.
You're going to start to see there's less and less people at the games because once the playoffs are again continue to just fall by the wayside, you're going to see less and less people out there. That's the sad truth of it. Freedom Fund Adventure says if the season ended today, the Islanders would be picking 11th before the lottery. Don't say the Islanders cannot acquire Timo Meier. The Islanders have tons of tradable assets that can be converted.
What's the love for Timo Meier?
I don't know how many tradable assets we really have. I mean, like, the only way that would make sense for us is if, like, somehow Brock went there and we would get Meier back. But what sense would that make for an already old San Jose team?
Yeah, that's not
I
happening.
feel like the people who want Timo Meier still believe that this team can make a damn playoff run. The team cannot make a postseason run. I don't know why. You can look at every single game so far we played this year. You can look at all 50 games and say, yeah, this is not a team that's good enough to make the postseason. Simple as that. An addition of Timo Meier would be short-sighted. It would be further doubling down on the team that you currently have, which we cannot afford to do.
I don't know, Tom, if you listened to last week's show, we had Phil's Facts Fiction on the show, and he mentioned a deal which he thought was a good fit. And in retrospect, I hate to give him credit, but I love the thought process. Moving Brock Nelson to a team like Colorado for a first, a second, and an Alex Newhook.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. That makes sense. Highly touted prospect. You get your draft capital back. Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's pretty much something that we're looking for.
And that's the type of thing that we know we have to transition away, but here you get a guy who's played in the league a couple of years, not there yet, but with a little bit of tutelage. Yeah, he could take over that spot. And I think and then you get the draft capital. I'm all for deals like that. That's what we should be looking at. Is the Fossil capable of doing it? I don't know.
And
I don't think so.
Also in that trade, you have a lot of backup plans because if Newhook still doesn't pan out, you still have 2 picks and you see what happens with that.
That's right.
You're buying tickets to the lottery and you're just hoping that one of them cashes in.
Right.
Absolutely. The BK Italian kid says, did you guys see Lou's press conference? Yes, we did. But the reason I brought it up is he says, I think this means that it could be the first step of a potential rebuild, is at the end of that comment. Now, did you get those feelings from his conversation, Lou Lamoriello? Maybe this is the first sign of a rebuild. I didn't, but I wanted to get your guys' opinion.
Nope.
I don't think the rebuild would involve Lou anyway. So I don't know. I don't think full rebuild. I don't think these owners want to do a full rebuild when the new arena is here, and they don't want to, already have it become a relic 2 years in.
But for me, now, see, my perspective is if you do it like we're suggesting, you're just moving. The only guy you're moving right now would be Brock Nelson.
That has still term left on his
contract. Still has term left on his deal. Everybody else,
Nelson and Bavillier. I think there's really 2 forwards that have term that need to get moved.
You can hold on to Bavillier till the offseason.
Okay, true.
I think Nelson's value is you get a couple of years in Nelson. I think that's value. Like last year, we were saying you could have got a lot more for Scott Mayfield last year because he had 2 years at one point, a ridiculous $1.45 million per on his deal. I mean, so you can move somebody like that, and this way you get your new hook example coming in. I love this deal so much. I'm almost considering it done. And then it's a young guy who brings some excitement to the team. Everybody else is going to be gone. You're just moving one guy off your roster, and then you do another reassessment under a new general manager in the offseason. It's a soft rebuild. It's not a retool.
It's a retool.
Yeah, but the whole thing is you just don't sign any of the vets back.
Mhm.
You move them up. You don't. I mean, TJ, I've been crazy every single year. They keep on signing back the Geezer squad. I'm like, they're out of contract. Let them go. Let some new guys come in, fresh blood.
Yeah, the clutter contract to me, it just didn't make sense. And again, like not a killer contract, but it's still there. And now I actually wonder if Clutter retires in the offseason with how many times this year he hasn't finished games. And, can he be somebody that goes on LTIR? I know it's not a ton of relief, but it's something.
Yeah, I think he is. And this is right. That's the example. They had Colorado in town looking at him, and they said, "No, we want to hold on to this guy." Later on that week, he breaks something. What, he break his hand? He got injured. I can't remember what the hell happened to him. He got injured, missed the rest of the season. Hand, shoulder, who the hell knows? Did something to him. Didn't play the rest of that year, and we could have traded him maybe for a second or a third round.
Yeah, that could have been our Ryan Reeves got flipped for like a third a while back. Yeah. Sometimes GMs just go crazy and they're like, grinder, second round, third round.
I need a sandpaper guy. I need a sandpaper guy. Mm-hmm. You could have got a third round pick for a guy who's played like 20 games.
The Lightning, Barclay Goodrow, first round pick. Yeah. And Brandon Hagel, pretty good player, not a grinder as much, but first round pick for Brandon Hagel. Like, I would hope that, I mean, going by that, Brock Nelson's absolutely, a first rounder. I think he's a first no matter what, because he's a good top 6 player that you're getting now with term.
Who has shown, particularly to Barry Trotz, that he can also play defense.
Yeah. And now, we're helping his value by having every other forward be so bad he looks even better.
No, I thought Brock Nelson was really, really good today. I thought it's the best game I've seen him play in an awful long time, really helping out defensively. I don't know where it's been all year, but I thought he played really, really well today. You got to strike when the iron's hot. TJ, remember when I said after, what year was it that Bailey had the big play? 2019?
Yeah, it was after he had the postseason. I think it was in the 2020 postseason even, Grump.
And I said, you need to move him immediately. His value is never going to be higher. And they're like, well, no. Everyone's like, no, you can't move Josh Bailey. Look how great he was in the playoffs. I don't care. He's just a guy. He's a jag, a ham and egger, a jabroni. That's what he is. You could have gotten quite a bit for him coming off that big playoff run that he had. I'm like, that's when you make moves. I'm a big believer in the Branch Rickey style. Sell a year too early than a year too late. And that's something that the Islanders have not been able to do. We need new management.
John S. says, my brother just got back from a trip from the Hockey Hall of Fame, and the Islanders versus Toronto game. Hockey Hall of Fame was excellent. Enough said.
Very good, John. I love
Rick Roma says,
coffee's for closers.
Grumpy, I'll let you read it.
Tom from Belmont, you cost me $6,000. $6,000 and one Cadillac.
There it
Another beauty from Glengarry Glen Ross.
Andre and Grump.
Hope Lou's explanation of ownership is much better than the garbage he spoke to the media today. Or ownership will see season ticket cancellation. That'll get them changing their minds. Like I said, they should have. Tom, I know you don't listen to the show all the time. This team could already be all the way on the way up again if they would have listened to me. No, they went the exact opposite direction. That's what you get.
Oh, hey, if they listen to us now, they can make up for lost time.
They won't.
You get 2 firsts back out of 2 of the UFAs and another out of Brock. All of a sudden, we have all the first round picks.
That's it.
And you're in a spot where you could really launch the rebuild.
Yeah.
And even if, let's say, okay, so you have 3 firsts and 2 seconds, you can maneuver around the draft board with a couple of guys you really like. Okay, maybe we don't want to bring in 3 guys. They need to bring in 3 guys.
Absolutely.
But even if you don't, you could maybe move up move into like the top 2 or 3 for one, and then use a couple of 2s to move into the bottom of the first line. There's so many things you can do when you have a whole lot of options. The last number of years, we've had no options. I do love our draft last year, though. It seemed like I mentioned before, with O'Dalius and Finley and
I think George.
George. these are modern NHL players. It's nice to see we kind of went away from what we were doing in the past.
Big Italian Kid also says, imagine how the players would feel if the general managers admits to being that the team is being poorly constructed. Here's the thing. When you don't play well, I really don't care what the players' feelings are. Produce on the ice, so you don't have to worry about that.
He was smirking the whole press conference. He's like, yeah, Monday morning quarter. Yeah. Yeah. I love this stuff. He was toying with everyone. He was like, yeah, I just came out here. He couldn't even, like, you ever see those reality TV shows, when you got whoever's on there, not the contestants, whatever they are, the reality TV people. And you just know they're smiling and smirking because it's all scripted and they can't even control themselves because they're not good enough actors. That was Lou Lamoriello today.
We do have a lot of these. And again, like just for the brevity of time, we're not going to be showing like everybody say full rebuild this, we're not going to be showing every one of those. Sorry guys, but we do see your comments. Ariel C says here, we have to be actively tanking, right? I mean, we should be at least. This is horrid, but not shocking.
Not
full
shocking
rebuild, full tank, though. We've all kind of agreed on it. And I think fans should too. Come around to the way of thinking. John, okay, do it, Tom.
Oh, I was interested because, like, if he means, like, for the fans, I think we're rooting for the tank. We're not the guys going out there every night. But, like, from the perspective of the players, like, obviously they're not tanking, but it's impressive how we've kind of put together, like, an accidental tank. I don't think Lou had 4D chess in his head and knew that we were going to be terrible and just, was going to be able to trade off assets this year. It's like impressive that we kind of accidentally tanked.
Hey, I'm happy that we all knew it was going to happen, but I'm just happy it's showing itself before the deadline.
Yeah.
This is blatant. It's not like we're going to be going to the deadline where we're sitting 8th or 9th and Lou Lamoriello says, good, let's buy, give up our first and our second this year, maybe another pick next year.
It probably is good long-term. Just like they needed to see this core, fail a couple of years in a row. Like they would have had a good excuse in the offseason this year to make some moves. I think though, the one big difference is I wouldn't have moved Brock coming into this year. And now I'm like, all right, I'm all ears. That's where we're at.
He looks defeated right now. They look defeated.
Oh yeah.
I
mean, losing to this Ottawa team.
This is a bad loss. This is a bad loss.
I feel like this stretch, even though it wasn't the first of this bad stretch, that Capitals loss, that might have done something to them.
Yeah.
That might have that's a game that
lead.
Yeah. And I don't know, like they didn't stick up for Pajot, even though I didn't think that hit by Ovi was like the worst hit in the world. What somebody in the comments pointed out, the Rangers have been on a tear and we're going to have to watch the Rangers in the postseason. The Rangers started that tear after Trouba beat the hell out of somebody. And I hate Trouba and he's a dirty player, but the Islanders were built to be a tough team and nobody stuck up for Pajot. Like that's supposed to be our strength. That was like a crushing loss to me to see both us lose on the ice, but also seems like our pride is gone.
That's when you're up 3-0 on a team that you're directly battling for a playoff spot and you lose that game. That's a bad loss. We've had quite a few bad losses this year. And like I said, Ottawa, bad loss. Do you think we have any shot of beating Detroit? I don't.
Maybe.
They're not even great, but like this was
better than Ottawa.
And we're still scoring I think less than 2 goals in like every game for the last like 11 games.
Yep. Yeah. Except the one game for Vancouver. We've only had one game where we've scored more than 2 goals. It was we scored 6 against Vancouver.
That's how my deck hockey team tries to win. And it's not going to work.
Because you don't have enough talent on your deck hockey team.
This is true. Hey, I got 2 goals in 4 games. I'm doing my best.
There it is.
I'm going to be Brock. I'll get flipped at the deadline.
Now, TJ, yes. Do you remember that tweet you put out a while ago, early in the season?
Which one?
The one about that we should have got some more offensive talent in the offseason before the season started. And you remember the response from some people?
I do remember the response.
You have those receipts? I just wonder how that response is aged.
Don't worry, Grumpy. I'm waiting. I'm trying to think. I'm like, when can I time it perfectly? Are they
do it every single show? Matter of fact, that should lead off every show.
Well, hey, these people did tweet. They retweeted us every single win after the Islanders had said, Well, the Islanders, after this tweet, are now 4-0-0. They're 5-1-2. They would go through every
We're
fucking game.
we are a 500 team right now. We're a 51 points in 50 games.
No. Less
Worse
than
than
500.
last year.
Less than 500 team, Grump. Less than 500. Here's the thing. I count overtime losses as losses. That's not a fucking win. It's
I'm
not
just saying-
you eliminate it. An overtime
I'm
loss
just-
is a loss.
I go by points.
I go by
51
losses.
points in 50 games. That's 500 teams.
We've lost more games than we've won.
At one point before this stretch, we were on a 94-point pace, which is, still borderline playoffs, but like, man, doesn't that feel like forever ago already? What's our
Now we're
pace now?
82, 84, maybe 84.
I mean, that's what happens when you win. How many points do we even have in our last 11 games?
I think we've got like 5 points since New Year's, or 6. Not enough.
We had
Not
two.
enough.
We had 2 games right before New Year's that I thought, like, for a second was changing my outlook on the team when we beat the hell out of Florida and Pittsburgh. And then I haven't seen that effort since. I haven't seen anything close to that.
See, I disagree with you though, Tom. I think the effort has been there. We just don't have enough talent on the team.
Yeah, that's true. It might
it's
just be the lack of talent. I think, yeah, like how much am I going to put on Simon Holmstrom, who probably shouldn't even be playing in the NHL for not scoring? Like, the team just wasn't talented enough, and all it took was like one injury for a bunch of AHLers to have to play.
I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, even today's game. Like I said, I was watching it, as we were talking. That game was there for the taking. We had so many chances, and their goalie sucks out loud. I'm just going to tell you. Forberg was terrible. And still, so many opportunities, couldn't hit the net. Couldn't get – and it's just like, oh, well, we're just snake. But no, we're just not good enough. Stop making excuses. Excuses are like buttholes. Everyone's got one. Mm-hmm. No, we're just not good enough. I want to hit some of these comments while TJ's away in the bathroom. John Smith, great comment. Troll of the year. If we can improve the team, we will. Like I said, the best way to improve the team is to have Lou Lamoriello step aside. Any comments on that, Tom?
No, yeah, fully agree. Like, hilarious because you could tell. I mean, Lou does not like the press, and you could tell when he talks to them. The 3 times a year he talks to them.
Freedom Fun Adventure says, the coaching staff, not an issue. They have pulled this no-effort crap under 4 different coaches and 2 different GMs. TJ is the Romanov of this show. No matter who he is partnered with, he hurts their performance. TJ taking shots. Everyone kind of picks on TJ. TJ's great, though. Gotta love him. Andre M says, you know what the problem with Lou is? He thinks his Hall of Fame pedigree allows him to say and do whatever he wants and doesn't give a crap about the fans. I 100% agree with that.
He kind of seems to dislike the fans based on some comments. Actively dislike.
Yes, it's like England during the 1400s, the plebeians, the little serfs. Just do my bidding, serfs.
Yeah, I mean, like, today was the first time I've even heard him say anything about the fans in a long time.
And it was that condescending manner with that smirk. Yeah, okay. I was going to give you a break, Lou. Nope, sorry. My Little Brownie says, someone please tell me exactly what Craig Berube said to his squad when they were tanking in the first half of the 18-19 season. The Islanders are desperate for that message. People forget St. Louis was a really talented team that just wasn't, they needed a change. And the head coach Berube came in and they turned around. They were really talented though.
Yeah. Yeah. And what sucks is that if the Islanders were more talented, that Blues team also got that hot because of their goaltending. We have that part of the equation. We just don't have the talent part.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
Craig Rogers says, do you know Craig Rogers?
No.
He says, an Islanders, Rangers, and Devils fan here. Now, that's interesting. Usually they cannot coexist. But, Craig, kudos to you. 2 of the 3 teams doing very well. Shay, our pal Shay, says the management, and Shay used to be so sweet. She's listened to this show enough. She's not anymore. She's mean like a viper now.
Oh, what have we done?
The players and management are all talk. They say the same BS over and over again, and nothing changes. They can say what they want, but actions mean more than words. That's what they are all talk.
It is kind of funny. We talked about the country club atmosphere earlier.
Yep.
And the most exciting thing that happened with the Islanders in the offseason was a bunch of people watching the Tommy Borelli video of him literally taking the Islanders golfing. Because that was the most excitement we got out of the offseason for the Isles.
Do you remember, I think it was 2 years ago, all they showed was Coco, the service dog.
Yes.
Yeah. Cute dog, though.
Yeah, I don't care about the dog, though.
Well, that's what you got to do when you miss out on the big free agent every year. You got to, guys, come to the Heineken Lounge. It's a lot of fun. Guys, we're bringing back the reverse retro. We're bringing back the fisherman.
Like Thirsty Thursdays. Super Tuesdays.
Actually, I have a question for you guys. I'm really interested in, so you guys talked a few minutes ago about, how we needed offensive talent in the offseason. That's really clear. Yeah. But if we had only added Gaudreau and nothing else, I think we'd still be really, really bad. Because as you guys have also pointed out, they weren't one guy away. That's now clear.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's rough. If you're gonna try to be positive, how awful would our cap situation be if we had signed Gaudreau and we were still this bad?
I think it would just been the same. I don't think the cap situation would have been different at all, and we would have had a line mate who could play with Matt Barzal.
It would be more watchable for sure offensively.
Right. Tell me, I'd love to see those two guys play together. I mean, just frustrating. What could have been, coulda, shoulda, woulda. We don't do anything. Romanov.
To answer your question, Grumpy, did I keep the receipts? The answer is yes. We kept all the started keeping the receipts there from the individuals, and we just maybe we'll tweet at them. Who knows?
What? I wanted to read them. Can I read them?
Hold on. No, hold on.
Why not? Why not?
Hold on.
Let me enjoy myself for a
change. Complete failure, and one after we said
complete failure. That's right. The guy who did that tweet is a complete failure. That's correct.
Yeah.
At least he is self-aware that he's a complete failure.
We were 5-0 at that time period and saying outscoring opponents 22 to 9 since that
last time
I think that was the Florida Panthers and Penguins little stretch there.
Yeah.
That gave me hope too for a second.
No, I think that was early.
That was early.
Oh, okay.
That was about like week. I made that tweet about second, third week of the season where things I'm like, okay, you could see what's going to happen. And we had a whole bunch of playing backup goalies, scoring goals in the third period, and just kind of like, oof.
I just wanted to mention something. Now, I'm not saying Montreal is a blueprint for anything, but look what they did in the offseason, right? They moved Romanov, who's a substandard defenseman, I think you could say. I mean, he was the best defenseman on that team. Yikes.
They got a good return for him, too. Got a first-round pick.
And what did they do? They flip it for Kirby Dach. They get something later. And I don't know if Kirby Dach's going to pan out, but that's a type of guy, you know what? Let's take a shot at it.
I have no idea what Chicago was doing there, but you got to take advantage of teams like that.
That's right. See, those are the type of moves that we need to be considering. It's just, it's disappointing. That's all.
Oh, 6-game loser. JG says, I told you guys a couple podcasts ago, the Nassau men have finally seen the light.
They should have been right on with our boat, but no, they weren't.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started with all these people who are now. I'm happy they're seeing the light, right? That's the big thing. I'm happy that people are coming to the realization, but I guess that's the thing, Grumpy, though. When you're the curve, right? Not many people are with you when you're talking about it, and
you get berated, you get run down. But I always have the last laugh. Always.
It's not a good laugh. We don't like to see the team struggle. No. Trust me, we do not like to see that. But if we were heeded these words, if you
wouldn't be in the situation we're in.
Exactly. It would be looking much more different. Fans would be much more optimistic about the way up that we'd be currently on.
I care more about this team than Lou Lamoriello does.
Whoa! You care more about the team.
That's not even a hot take. Everyone knows it.
You care more about the team's long-term success than Lou Lamoriello does. I firmly believe that.
Any of these bootlicking weasel sites who've been toting the company water, you're losers. Every single one of you.
Company water.
You don't care about the team. You want to live in the present or the failed present under Barry Trotz, where you never won anything, never won a division title, never won a conference title, never won a Stanley Cup. Okay, great. Woo-hoo! We haven't won anything. You should have been proactive. You should have been on the grumpy old man boat. Why? Because I could have brought you to a Stanley Cup already. But no, not Lou Lamoriello, not those sites. Now they're all on the grumpy old man bandwagon. No problem now. That's why I'm the curve. That's why.
Maybe instead of the lottery, they'll do like golden ticket for next GM, and whatever Islander fan gets it is the GM, and maybe it'll be you.
Absolutely. Send them through some. Yes, I love it.
Maybe you have to be a season ticket holder though, so maybe that's another incentive to be a season ticket holder. You can be GM for a day.
That's genius. I like that a lot. All of a sudden, the phones are ringing off the hook, and it's like, yeah, no, I'll take the season tickets. What are the odds I'm the GM?
GM for one day. Could you imagine the amount?
Not one day. It's got to be like a month. You got to be able to do some damage.
Could you imagine the amount of damage that could be done? Okay, month. I feel like a lot of damage could be done. Could you imagine the damage that could be done in one day as general manager?
Nothing.
Oh no, I forgot to tender the RFA contracts.
Nothing.
Jeff F says here, it's sad to hear the Islanders Anxiety podcast lost their contract with Lighthouse Hockey. Yeah, they're through Sports SB Nation. I know that they're going through a lot of layoffs. I think they're owned by Vox, who's not doing well right now. But yes, I did see that where somebody else had brought it up and that this was happening. I'm sure you guys got into podcasts by listening to them. No. So what are some of your favorite Islander podcasts, past and present? Well, here's the thing. Grumpy and I never listened to any Islander podcast before this show. We just literally wanted to talk about Islanders, the same stuff we would squabble about at the house. We're like, well, let's just put it out there and see if other people think the same way.
I have never listened to an Islander. Actually, no, I listened to one Islander podcast one time, and after listening to them, I wanted to kill myself. I was knocking on doors, asking people for guns so I could blow my brains out rather than listen to their boring tripe. But no, I've never listened. Sorry, Tom. I've never listened to any. I've never listened to any podcast. I have never listened to any podcast. I think once I listened to one of ours, I'm like, man, that old guy's pretty damn good.
Grumpy, don't speak so poorly about Tom, though. Come on, he's right here on the show.
But I don't want Tom to feel bad. I don't listen to podcasts. I don't do it. It's just not something I do.
If it makes you feel better, I basically do the same thing. And sometimes I'll listen back to my own podcast just to, make sure next morning, make sure everything came out all right. And I'll be like, man, I agree with this guy. Oh, it's me. Yeah. I forget I'm listening to my own thing because, it's passive in the background of you doing work. And you're like, man, this guy's preaching. And it's like,
he's smart.
Wow, I got to work. I got some narcissism.
Don't worry. So do I.
Sad to see that, though, Jeff. You never like to see that. Well, I mean, they could go just start up a YouTube channel the same way everybody else does. Hopefully they keep it still going if they want to. But JG says, time for some Islanders trivia. How many times did Toronto end up behind our defense with a golden opportunity at Sorokin? This team is absolutely hanging him out to dry. It's pathetic.
It's funny because I jotted some notes down from that game the other day, and they knew they could get behind the Islanders. They came right up the gut on us, stretch passes all game long. They had too much team speed for us. Our defensemen, whenever Romanov, and for people who say Noah Dobson can't play defense, let me tell you something. Noah Dobson can and does play defense. He's just been hamstrung by the partners he's been with for years and years. Is he, Nicholas Lidstrom? No, he's not Nicholas Lidstrom. But you want to know something? He's not Paul Coffey either. He actually comes back and he plays some defense. And you saw the spreads. It's like, I don't know. It seems like our defensemen a lot of time are just hanging on to the walls or trying to protect the walls. They just came right up the middle on us. And I'll tell you what, who was the defenseman? Bowl, who made the pass to
Hole.
Okay.
Hole.
Okay.
Yeah, HOL or something like that.
The guy who made the pass to Austin Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
That was just luck. I'm sorry, that's just luck. But that being said, that was their game plan going in. Butch said when he saw the practice, he saw that everything was coming up the middle with those passes right in the neutral zone. That was what they were practicing. Now, was he bright enough to go to Lane and say, hey, this is what I saw in practice today? Or does he just keep his mouth shut? I don't know. But either way, Lane didn't do anything to combat that the other night.
Tampa did the same thing in the 2 times we got to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's how they consistently burned us. These long stretch passes where their team speed and a good outlet pass was able to get past our slower defensemen who weren't ready for the pass and weren't prepared, and they'd have those opportunities going the other direction.
True.
So, yeah, moving along here. Nick C said, "What are your guys' thoughts on Samuel Bolduc so far?" I've been kind of impressed, but I know he's in a limited role, but he looks the part as of right now.
For me, he's not noticeable in a good way.
That's what I usually say about defensemen. Because it's hard to stand out. Like Pellick got to stand out for a few years because in the playoffs you get to really watch. You get all of a sudden you get 18 different replays of Pellick like poking the puck away and stuff like that. You're not going to have as many cameras on Samuel Bolduc in his second NHL game, but I think the fact that I haven't noticed him, handing the puck away, that's just a good start. If you're a young defenseman, if you're just not handing the puck away and giving away chances that easily, that's a good building point.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Why not play in the rest of the year? I mean, what's the harm? I just, for me, it's like, if he's not embarrassing himself out there, roll with him.
Yeah. I think actually the sadder thing is like, what does this all say about what the team thinks about Robin Salo? That, coming into the year, I thought he was going to be the sixth guy.
Yeah.
And, how many guys have passed him? Tyler Wotherspoon got to play, and Salo did get a couple chances recently, but obviously they weren't impressed.
Think about that. Aho beat him out for the spot. And I firmly believe the reason Aho didn't start the year there was because of that 0.01 DUI, whatever the hell it was that they were very specific on. But yeah, Parker Wotherspoon getting opportunities above him, Samuel Bolduc getting opportunities, but Robin Salo, they have no plans on. They think very lowly of him, in my opinion.
I don't understand why. I just don't. I mean, I know he's chronologically not young, but he's been young to the North American game. I mean, just to give up on somebody like, I don't understand a lot of the things they do, to be honest with you.
I think hopefully we'll see maybe a little bit of a rotation the rest of the year. And we get to see guys battle out for, as the season kind of falls apart as it's going, we'll get to see guys that are auditioning for next year. And that's when we'll have something more exciting to talk about other than just they're not good enough, which is like, hey, here's a guy that could stick around next year while we have 8 first-round picks because we traded all of our pending UFAs.
I'm looking forward to that. Uh-oh.
This is one. It says it's a picture from The Simpsons of Ledecky and Lou Lamoriello. And who the heck is this character in The Simpsons? The guy who's really
Smithers and Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns and Smithers. He says, Ledecky, are they booing me? No, they're saying Lou. They're looing him, Grumpy. They're not booing him.
That's good.
You're hearing the Lou must go chant starting already. Just going to get worse.
Yep.
You can't, man. Today was a brutal loss. Just brutal. You can't lose to Ottawa. I'm sorry. At least we beat Montreal and Vancouver.
Hey, Cider 95 says this may be unpopular, but to me, when Trotz was behind the bench, for the most part, I kind of had confidence in the systems. There are absolutely no systems now and no additions to a shit team.
Okay. 95. Let me just tell you something. I'm going to assume that's when he was born, which makes me feel really old.
Maybe it's a sheet. There's 2 people in that picture, Grumpy. You feeling old, you said?
Oh, all right. I'm just assuming it was the guy. If it's the
we
young
have
lady,
many female listeners on the show, Grumpy.
We're not a female-friendly show, but if you are a female lady whose comment this is, and you see, I'm always nice. I'm always nice to the ladies when they come on the show. Always. I can't be mean to them, but I can be mean to you, TJ, and any of the other guys.
And Tom, Tom, right? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm nice to Tom too. I don't know him well enough to be mean to him yet. Don't worry, it's coming. The problem with Trotz was he had a shelf life with this team. They kind of tuned him out last year. I thought it was really obvious he had to go. But you're right. There really isn't a system right now, and there absolutely were no additions to the team.
I will say about Trotz, I was really pissed when they let him go, but I think the fact that he didn't take another job shows that there's probably a little bit more to his decision to step away, because Trotz could have had any job he wanted after getting fired. So at the very least, this is one of the few scenarios where I'm not going to blame Lou, because it does seem like maybe Barry he was ready to move on from hockey. And yeah, maybe it was just a natural conclusion to end the partnership when Barry looks like he doesn't want to be back in hockey, and the team, like you said, might have tuned him out last year. So, I'm less critical of them firing him at this point. I do wish they looked like they did under him, but it's going to be hard to get that. That's a Hall of Fame coach. That's like a top, that's a top coach all time.
I don't know if you noticed, Tom. I think there's something else to it as well. As soon as you saw him like interviewing with other teams and he was talking on shows, he had a full beard. Maybe he's like, I couldn't live with Lou anymore. And that's why I was so glad to go so I could grow a beard.
He was holding me back. I was trying to grow the fuzz back from when I won the cup.
That's exactly right.
There it is. Oh, man, oh, man. And Bill Fawn says, Grumpy is Kurskin.
Kreskin. CR is cr, not cur. Kreskin.
Who the hell is Kreskin, Grump?
The Johnny Carson character. Kreskin. Put the envelope to the head and he give you the answer. And Ed McMahon would hold the envelope and he'd hand it to us as Hero Sultan, my magnificent Kreskin. And he would take it. Johnny Carson would put it to his head. He had this big turban on. And he'd say, bip, 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 whatever he'd say. And he'd open it up, and then you would read what the question was. Look it up on YouTube. They have it. Kreskin,
I can see him.
Hilarious. They're hilarious.
I thought that was Karnak, the fortune teller.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, you know what? You're right. It was Karnak. But Kreskin was another one of those guys.
Yeah, I was about to say. Okay, gotcha. Because I always thought you used to say Karnak, the fortune teller. I pay attention sometimes.
That's a big minus for me that I got that wrong.
That's no. He's the same guy. Kreskin does the same thing, but it was just like I don't know.
But I went through the whole Johnny Carson bit when that was Karnak. Yeah.
Oh, Grumpy, eat shit. There you go, Grumpy. I knew it. Look, I
already threw myself under the bus. Now it's piling on when you do it,
dude. I'm shocked, Grumpy. It took me a while to register that.
Mark A says, "Are we at rock bottom yet?"
I figured that's an interesting question.
But we're close.
Oof. What do you think,
If
Tom?
we lose to Detroit, Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
If we lose every game before the All-Star break, that's rock bottom.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad going into the All-Star break with their last win being on the 14th. That would be pretty bad. And also, man, what a hollow, not hollow, that they're earned Brock and Nelson, two different guys. Brock and Sorokin being at the All-Star game. Good for them. They're going to want to get away from this team for a bit.
I felt bad for Brock Nelson today, watching him interview. I'm like, dude, yeah, he knows. They know. And here's the thing, the guys know. I just don't know.
They know the cul-de-sac crew's about to get broken up. The same fun feeling of family that they've had for years and years is about to turn more into a business, which is what every other team in the NHL's run like.
I don't want to put Average Anders down as a leader, but he's not Mark Messier. And what I mean by that is I'm sure he's a leader. The guys believe in him, but Mark Messier was different. Certain guys don't let their teams get down like this. And I don't know if he's that guy. Tavares certainly wasn't that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of leaders like that, but he's not one of those guys. And I just see, you look at him, he's defeated. You can't have your captain looking defeated like that. He doesn't get super fired up when things are going poorly. I want somebody who wants to fight back. It's time to strip the C off of him. Give it to Matty B.
And it's too obvious, too, when he has that long face, because he has a physically long face because of the chin. And it's too obvious. When he's grinning, there's a huge difference.
Oh, man. Jeff F says
he looks like Stan Laurel when he's smiling. And then
Jeff Feynman, Grumpy says, and Tom says, have you seen some of the trade talks, some of the trade Sorokin talk, mostly from a small contingent of Analytic nerds.
Phil.
This is garbage. This is garbage. Rebuild or no rebuild. You hold on to elite talent. No overthinking it. So I guess
Absolutely.
the reason I brought it up is more of the analytics crowd. I guess that is calling for the
Like
trade.
that loser Phil. That loser Phil.
Phil does like analytics. He did say that Sorokin is like like Kirk Cousins last week. And I said, Kirk Cousins.
He's also a nerd too.
And also Sorokin, the fact that he came over so late, I would actually think that would help his shelf life in the NHL.
Yeah.
And the fact that he and Varley have traded starts, not as much this year. This year it's been the Sorokin show. But they haven't run him into the ground. Like, this is the first year that he's really taken the reins. So I'm not that worried about him falling off anytime soon, really. Not yet, at least.
No, I agree.
Brett W says Lou was in a coma. Don't think a Ross Johnson punch to his jaw would wake him up. Oh gosh.
I meant to say this earlier, but the one downside of Clutterbuck maybe going to LTIR would be if Lou's still in charge, Ross Johnson's playing every night.
And Ross Johnson, I think, showed value when the team had no heart.
But he doesn't have to play any night because you could pick up a fourth liner anywhere.
I don't know why they don't just send him down to Bridgeport and, carry more young AHL guys that could use minutes. I don't know. He's just taking up a roster spot that, like, he doesn't. What does he do? I'd rather see somebody that might emerge at some point from the AHL get a shot for a few games than see Ross Johnson in the rafters.
I like Ross Johnson. Always have. I thought that Barry Trotz ruined him by trying to turn him into a regular player. That's not what he is. He is what he is. It's like, once again, the square peg into the round hole theory. That was, trying to turn him into a capable forward who could play defense. No. He's there for intimidation, crashing the net. That's what he's there for. Don't try to change what guys' skill sets are. Don't believe in it.
I like a few of these comments here. Napoleon in Exile says, when Lambert is fired, the headline will be Lane Duck. Like a lame duck.
He'll
Lane
be gone.
Duck, their head coach.
He'll be gone. They get a new GM. He's gone. Rick Rock says, hi, gang. Blow hard for Bedard. I like it. I'm trying to find something there. Blow hard for Bedard. That's the one. That's the leader in the clubhouse. I know Jake, 2 minutes pessimistic. He had a couple, but blow hard for Bedard really rings. Let's hope. We can't even suck badly in a proper fashion. Oh, well.
I would disagree with that part. We're sucking great right now.
We're doing a good job.
This is a masterclass right now.
We came out flat today against Ottawa, but then from the 10-minute mark of the second period, we carried the rest of the game. We just couldn't get the job done.
If we lose on Friday to the Red
We're going to lose on Friday. We're going to lose on Friday. That's a given. And then we're losing to Vegas. You lose to Ottawa. Detroit smells blood in the water now.
All you can do is just laugh right now. This was preventable. You could have altered your way out of this hole that we're going to be in. There still is a way that we could go ahead and have a shallower hole instead of jumping 6 feet deep. But will we do it?
A few comments ago, when they asked about rock bottom, I think it's if Philly passes us. Because they're a dumpster fire with a coach that hates them and they hate him. If that's a team that can pass you, there's something. I mean, like, that's probably rock bottom.
I hate Philadelphia. I don't care if we come in 31st in the league, as long as Philadelphia is 32nd. I hate the Flyers. Always.
Oh, look at this, Grumpy. Hold on a second. I tell you one thing. I'm telling you, people listen to the show. They listen, or they maybe our minds think the same thing at the same time. Do you remember how I talked about John Ledecky as being like goofy, like a mascot, Grump? Like he was like goofy at Disney World. They said 3-year mascots. Which one's your favorite? They've got the dragon, Sparky. They've got John Ledecky as one of those. All they need to do is put goofy ears on him. That's exactly what I said. It's goofy. He is the freaking. He just goes out there and says, "Hey guys, yeah, let's go Islanders." He's just like essentially the big PR guy. That's all it is. He's an owner, but
he's
also
a hype man. He's a hype man for the franchise.
Hype man. He's goofy. He's goofy dressed up, Grumpy.
Wasn't his niece one of the swimmers?
Yeah, she's like the most successful like women's swimmer ever.
They need to be rolling her out every once in a while. How about just like put like a little pond somewhere, just let her swim circles during the game.
Swim circles in a freezing cold pond. There it is.
Well, we talked earlier about how stadiums are turning into just entertainment from the game. Have a little pool that she swims in during the Islanders power play, so we don't have to watch the power play.
There you go. Very good. See, Tom's thinking.
Oh,
yes, it is. We need some out of the box thinking around here.
I think Beauvillier MILF Hunter was
that was really good too.
We've got some ideas.
That option's already been picked up on that show. Ryan P says ham and eggers. That's what we are. Just ham and eggers.
Point about Curtis Grump.
Always Islanders always lose hair podcast.
That's us, Grumpy. That's us on the show, Grump.
Tom's got plenty of hair. He's got plenty of hair.
Being affiliated with us, Tom, you're going to start to notice the follicles are going to start to come out.
Tom, you're pretty young. I don't know your age. I'm not even asking. But I know when I was your age, I had plenty of hair too. Then I had children. And well, you see what happened.
It speaks for itself, huh, Grump?
Pretty much.
And Jeff there says, I'm starting to feel like the 2017-18 season with the amount of frustration the fan base is feeling and how disappointing the team is. Crazy how quickly the Lamoriello ethos turned to poison.
Okay.
Bad news up and down.
Okay. I want to touch on this. At the time they brought Lou Lamoriello in, think about where the franchise was in respectability around the league.
Yes.
We were a laughing stock. We had a non-qualified head coach. Lou Lamoriello came in here, gave us respectability. Best move. We've talked about the best moves he's done. Bringing in Barry Trotz, yes, spit it out, was number one. That was the first move, and it gave the fans an identity again, as opposed to we'll just go to the games and they'll suck. They'll score some goals. We'll go home. We'll have some beer. We'll be happy. Let's look forward to the draft. Totally changed the mindset. So no matter what happens, he was good for the organization for the first number of years. I just think that his advanced age, he wasn't capable of getting fleeced in trades. And he was taking advantage of it every opportunity, honestly. And I think that it's not going to hurt his legacy overall, but it's going to end badly. It is ending badly.
I think people have talked about it after last year I don't mind having Lou around as the president. I think maybe after last year, he should have found his protege and then gone to be the team president, because he's still capable of running, a good ship from that perspective. It sucks when, it's kind of like how Chara left the league, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks for me, watch Chara growing up, be this incredible player, and see how bad he was at the end, to the point that people are like, was this guy ever good? And it feels like we're there with Lou. And it's like sad to see. I kind of wish he had just gone out after last year and it wouldn't have been as bad, the hate. But it's pretty bad because he doubled down on this team twice now.
Yeah, and that's his mistake.
I tell you, it is. I could just only imagine if he were to add pieces at the deadline, it would be unforgivable. And again, we're not going to get through all comments, guys, today. We're 2.5 hours in. We're going to have a cutoff there, maybe a little before 3 hours, but we got a few more comments we're getting through here. Adam P said, I didn't listen to you guys years ago, but I've been saying it for longer than 2 years. Adam never listened, but hey, Grumpy, he's always aligned there with the thought process. Good to hear, Adam.
What did I say as soon as Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz came in? What did I say we should have done? Right away, first day. Start the rebuild right away. That's what we should have done, because they had so much cachet between the two of them. We could have moved away from the plethora of ham and eggers, jabronis, and we could have brought in new talent. And they would have, the fans who've been used to sucking would have sucked it up for another couple of years, and we could have been on a total upswing now.
What's up, player? Says the Rangers.
Player?
He said the Rangers did a soft rebuild a few years ago. We could do it too. We could do it.
Helped that their draft position was pretty good for a couple of years in a row too.
Helped that Adam Fox wanted to be moved there no matter what. So there's a few things that help them, but I think we're in a better position than they were starting their rebuild. Maybe we won't get the same amount of help along the way, but we're in a better starting position, if that makes sense.
Well, I don't think we have a contract in the bottom six as bad as they have with Gaudreau. So, that's one thing.
Yeah. And Shay there says, put Ratu on the power play. I know we played on it, for like a game, but our power play shit, just play him on it.
Why not?
Why not exactly? He can shoot the puck.
Yep. He's a guy who's shown he scores centering Ross Johnston and Matt Martin.
What about this power play are you keeping? Like, aren't we at the point where you're literally trying absolutely anything? Like anything.
I'm blending it up to where it's a freaking puree.
Matt Martin is going to sit in front of the crease like Anders Lee does. And we're going to hope that he learns how to tip the puck in too.
Oh, man.
Done that before. Been there, done that.
Scott L says, with Sleeping Beauty Lou finally waking up and speaking to the media, he just doesn't get it.
I think he does get it. He just doesn't care. Whenever things are bad, you'll see him come out and do the little dog and pony show. He did it last year with Shannon. Same thing.
A two-part interview.
Hockey trades. We're going to get better with hockey trades.
Yeah, we made one hockey trade over that entire time period.
Boy,
Alexander Romanov. We're going to get better through hockey trades. Hockey trade. It's like the meme you see where it's like, we've got McDonald's at home, and it goes to McDonald's at home, and it's freaking Alexander Romanov.
Well, that was a pretty good troll job by Lou too, because of course that's an improvement. The other guy was Chara.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, somehow they did improve, but by how much? It's very slim.
They just could have taken an orange cone and put it out there, and that was an improvement over Chara.
I'll stand in the crease and just block shots and die if that's what it takes. Instead of being Romanov where I give the puck away, I'll just stand in place in front of the goalie.
I don't know about you, Tom. He's the worst positional defenseman I think I've ever seen.
I said on my last podcast last week that there are some guys that have such high IQ. They know exactly where to be. They don't have to be the most talented guy, but the IQ puts them in the right spot. Romanov is like the opposite, where he's always out of position. And it's like, wow, I can't put myself in position to win. I'm not old. I'm not falling apart physically. I should be good at this, but I can't put myself in the right spot.
It's horrible watching him stay out of position all the time. Horrible.
As we mentioned before, what a freaking miserable trade. The anti-Alexander Romanov fan club. Tommy B says here, Coach Tommy B says they have to sell. If they're not, if they do not, the difference is instead of being good again in 2 to 3 years, it's being good again in 5 years. I think if we don't sell, it's more than 5 years. We could be looking like 7-year rebuild, 6 to 7 year rebuild.
Look at the Jets. It's like a 10-year rebuild for the Jets.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The Jets keep on making the same mistake because they're quarterback killers.
Mm-hmm.
They just are. And, it should not take 5 years to rebuild a hockey club. There's just not enough players on it. You just need to be smart. Are we smart enough? We haven't proved that we're smart enough in the front office the last number of years. Can we bring in someone who is?
Maybe we can hope that on the way out, because we talked about how Lou might have had a good draft class this past year. Garth Snow on his way out made some good moves, like the Eberle for Strome 1-for-1 deal. But yeah, and also I think trading whatever he acquired the pick that turned into Barzal and Beauvillier, which at the time looked good.
By moving Griffin Reinhart.
Yeah. So yes, exactly. So I don't know. Maybe at the very least, Lou's parting gift, if he retires this year, will be maybe that draft class will pan out.
Maybe.
But even then, it takes a few years.
One thing about Garth Snow, he never made a hockey trade unless he won one. He had skill in a hockey trade.
Made some good waiver claims too.
Yeah, he was he great? No, but it's not like Lamoriello.
This team that Lamoriello and Barry Trott's been winning with was all a Garth Snow team. And Garth Snow, trust me, Garth Snow is not as good of a general manager as Lou Lamoriello was in his prime. But was Garth Snow a better general manager than Lou, for the short term? If think about it, if Garth Snow could have ever gotten the right coach to buy in here, you'd be looking at something a better general manager than Lou. But I don't know. I think that they're on. I mean,
it's easy to pick players for the most part when you're picking the top 5 every year.
Here's the thing: if Lou Lamoriello traded away Devontae's for freaking pennies, and you go ahead and look at what he's given up to get players like John Gabriel Pageau and Kyle Palmer, etc. If he adds this year's deadline, I think it completely changes the viewpoint that all fans have on Lou Lamoriello as a general manager with the Islanders. He did bring respectability, brought over Sorokin, brought Barry Trotz. He did a lot of good, but if he adds at this year's trade deadline, I think it completely changes the viewpoint of Islander fans long term.
I think most Islander fans are not like us. They think that he's been great for the organization.
Wow. Okay, maybe they are. Maybe that's the reason why it took fans 2 years too long, or a year and a half too long, to realize that we needed to start the retool. Jason L says, sell what you can and rebuild there. That's a lot of the comments we're getting. Jeff Feynman also says, I'm not on the full rebuild train. We've had 2 rebuilds in the last 30 years, and they were both financially driven. Outside of John Tavares, our top 5 picks from 2008 to 2014 have amounted to zip. Now, this is a reason I wanted to bring this up. We cannot say just because the prior staff was incompetent with selecting players that we're going to be incompetent selecting players this time around.
I think we need a new scouting staff. The same guys have been in place forever, right? The same guys.
Maybe there is some hope with guys like Ratu that they were able to get him in the second round. But at the same time, I think, we took Holmstrom over, who was it at the time that the Preds took? And that one didn't work.
Tomasino, Kaliev, McMichael, yeah, all those guys.
Yeah. So the picks, there's hope for this most recent class. But overall it hasn't been great. But kind of like you said, they keep trading their draft capital. So, your odds of getting a top end talent later in the draft are just not going to be as good.
Yep. And then Tim J says, there's not much more to do except cry. We suck. I don't think we're at crying point yet, Tim, but I'll tell you this. If we make the right moves, there's reasons to be happy and optimistic about the future. There is.
True.
We have I think a good, if we build on it correctly, we've got a solid foundation we can build around. If we don't, then hey, you're tearing the house up from the studs up.
This is what worries me about Lamoriello, though. You can't be sitting on your hands or thinking, well, I'll give away Scott Mayfield for a 4th round pick.
Ugh.
I mean, that's what he's been in the past. Think about it. If we kept Taves, I complained earlier, we don't have guys who can move the puck out of the zone. He's a modern NHL defenseman. Him, Dobson. You got 2 guys who can move the puck out of the zone. I mean, just mystifying some of the moves he's made. That's all. Can you trust him?
That's the point, right? He's an 80-year-old general manager on an expiring deal who has a very checkered and questionable trade history for the Islanders and deadline history for the Islanders too. Can we trust him? That's 100% correct. I'm not sure. Something to definitely be very, very cautious on, to say the least. John A. also said, I'm deathly afraid for what he does at the deadline.
There you go.
Perfect timing. Rick Roma says Ray Shero came in and did a great job rebuilding New Jersey after Lou left them with a terrible old roster and a horrible prospect pool. Could Shero do it again on Long Island?
Why would he leave Jersey? I mean, they're the youngest team in the league. You've seen them take off this year. Why would he leave there? Unless he's a glutton for punishment.
Unless you're throwing a whole bunch of money at him that nobody else can match. Tommy B says, Coach Tommy B says, Malkin has restricted Lou now. All trades must be approved by Malkin. I'm not sure if that's true, but I hope it is. I would hope it is.
I hope it is also, but they need to, okay. Does Malkin know enough about hockey to know what trade should be approved or not?
Yeah, that would freak me out because the financial component of, the owner probably doesn't want you to sell. Probably wants butts and seats, unless he's like a really astute sports fan. But I mean, he's a business guy. I don't know if he is.
I know if I was the owner, I was a couple million short. Just one or
few.
2.
How many million, Grump?
Just a couple.
Okay.
But I know I would be approving those trades. Well, he would already be gone if I was owner of the team, or I would have brought somebody in to replace him already. So, but you're right, Tom. I agree. I don't think he'd be saying, "Oh, we're not selling off." I disagree with it, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, maybe we could do what like teams in the Bundesliga do, and like all the fans own the team, Everyone owns a share. We don't, we're owned by the fans. That would never happen. That would be
No,
fun.
not in America.
Somebody also pointed out in the comments, Shiro did get fired. Like Tom Fitzgerald is now the
Oh, that's
the
right.
GM of Jersey.
That's right. Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
is
So I
new
think
GM.
Fitzgerald's done a pretty good job over there. And like, I mean, it's weird. I have like this thing. I can't fully trust the Devils. I know their record's great and they're finding ways to win. I have this weird feeling that the goaltending
Yep.
might not hold up. And you know what? Vanacek's been pretty good. I don't hate the Devils. They're like, of our division opponents, they're probably the division opponent I hate the least. So, if they go and they beat the Rangers in the playoffs, I'll be cheering for them.
Absolutely. 100% agree. JG says the press was tiptoeing around the questions they were asking. 100% correct. And any of us could have stood in for Lou and given the same boilerplate answers that he gave. He's good at it. He's real good at that. D-Cut says, remember when all the dummies blamed Barry and wanted him gone? Barry was part of the problem, though. He had to go when he did. The team had tuned him out. He would not play the younger players. There were a different set of rules for veterans and younger players. I thought it hampered their development.
Yeah, I don't know how much better we are with Barry this year. I loved Barry too. And look, this roster is just really, really bad. And I think they're probably a tiny bit better with Barry. But
with Barry last year, we finished 18 points out of a postseason or playoff spot.
16.
16, I'm sorry. What indicates that any of that would have changed this year? He's a guy who was steadfast on his system, on the way to do it. And we need to transition away from him and Lou. It's not like one or the other. We need to transition away from both.
Do you think 13 would have re-signed if Barry Trotz was still here as coach?
Absolutely not.
I think, TJ, you talked about it before, but Barry and Lou were extremely important for the first couple of years.
Yep.
And, they served the purpose of basically resurrecting the franchise from what could have been a fatal blow with the Tavares situation. So I think time will be kinder to them. I do think this trade deadline means a lot, though. Like TJ, you said, if he goes out and makes some really sketchy buys and then isn't able to even re-sign those guys, then his legacy is probably very tarnished. Barry's is still probably pretty secure, even with the last year not being great.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, if Barry was kept 3 years and you just saw him, just sputtering out of control and not being able to do it, they'd look at him differently too. But because he was fired, right? Well, you're not gonna remember him for the last year that was poor. Now, after Lane's had another poor year with them, you're gonna say, "Wow, that team was just done and finished in cash," as we've all said. And you're gonna remember him from he took a team that was this bad and took them the back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals. That's what Barry's gonna be remembered for. Freedom Fund Adventure says, nice that you have a non-weirdo guest on tonight. Tom, what's your ideal scenario for the team being now and training, or between now and training camp? I'm sorry. Who goes? What are you looking at in the draft, and who do you acquire?
So, like we talked about, I think all the pending UFAs have to go. Mayfield, Varley, and Parise. You get as much back as you can. I think one of those guys, at least one of those guys, gets you a first-round pick, probably Brock. And then probably a second for Varley and maybe a third for Parise. And all of a sudden, that's a lot of draft stock. I think in the offseason, you could buy out Bailey. I think Bo needs a fresh start. I'd be interested to see. I think with Bo, though, because his trade value probably isn't incredibly high, the Bo trade would probably be like a struggling forward for a struggling forward, in my opinion. We're not going to be able to just get rid of him for draft, and get draft picks. His contract is not great for his production. And so it's not like we're going to have to attach a pick to get rid of him, but I don't think we're going to get anything special. So that's kind of like the beginning of cleaning house in the forward group a little bit. And then, next year, Atu Ratu's got his chance. Maybe Holmstrom plays on the fourth line. Just to get him more NHL minutes. And then in the draft, I haven't done a ton of research into like who I want in the draft yet. I would like Bedard. I'd like to get extremely lucky and end up with that pick. Um, and then who do you acquire? I still have to look at the free agent class. I'm very focused on now, just like what we're doing at the trade deadline, selling wise. So I have to do more research into the draft and past that. Oh, there's an interesting one in the comments. Bo for Vrana. That is kind of exactly what I was looking for. Like a guy. I mean, the Vrana thing scares me a little bit though, because there's a drug thing there. But I guess a situation like that where it's like, two guys that need a fresh start, one of them coming to us. Somebody also asked about trading Brock. I just think Atu Ratu has shown me enough that I think he'll be a top 6 guy. Would I maybe slightly prefer if they can if for some reason, and this happens every year, some team at the deadline goes crazy and overpays. If somebody if somebody offers a first for Pajot and you trade Pajot and keep Brock and Ratu, that would be, I think, ideal. Even though I like Pajot, I think I'd rather have Brock. But, I think you'd need a GM to go crazy and really give up a lot for Pajot.
Yeah, I think that they're going to really overpay it would be higher return for Brock. So I'm saying you can't keep both, but I think you got to keep one at least. Jackson T says here, Holmstrom looks silky smooth. I know you don't like him, but he should be a regular.
What does he do that stands out? He's invisible. He's like Bailey 2.0 is what this guy is. Sorry.
I wouldn't mind seeing him on the fourth line. He can't be banked on to score. Like he's played top 6 minutes this year. That's not fair to him, and it's not fair to like guys like Barzy who are just begging for a winger who can please score. And I think he's been put in not a great situation. And that's why I think like maybe next year he could take over right wing, fourth line for Clutter if Clutter's done.
I think bottom 6 guy. I think he could be a very successful, and he can have a role there as a bottom 6 guy for years to come. But he's a bottom 6 guy. But yay,
he's a jag. He's a jag.
Yeah, he's just another guy. Yeah, absolutely. Just a guy. Mookie Betzer says here, the dream team is back. Time for a rebuild, he says also. Andrew L. said, something TJ and Lou have in common. Speaking nothingness.
Oh.
He said, that was just too easy. No worries, Peter. And then, Peter M. says, Bolduc looks like he belongs. I think so, too. I think you could tell he's a guy who I think will be able to transition to the NHL. It's early yet, but he seems like he's got the look at least about him.
I liked, I just saw Shay's comment about Bo for Besser. I don't know where the Canucks are a mess. So maybe take advantage of that. Grumpy, you talked about earlier, the Canadians took advantage of Chicago, who for some reason, when they're in a rebuild, decided to trade DeBrincat and Kirby Dach. Those are the 2 young guys you would want to, see something in. And maybe the Islanders could take advantage.
Walk for free.
Yeah, maybe the Islanders could take advantage of a poorly run Vancouver team and get Besser, who I think is better than Bo. And we've been asking for a sniper. Brock Besser with Barzal, there could be some success for there.
Yep, I've mentioned that before. That deal.
I'm all down. JG says, question for Grump. Is Lou a jag?
Right now, he's not even a jag. He's a sub-jag.
Okay, so
but
he's a sub-jag.
Historically, no. He's one of the all-time great general managers. But right now, just time has passed him by. Time's undefeated.
It is. Lou Rivera says here, this team defensively, we're back at the same spot before Trotz took over. We got a 4th line playing with Barzal and an offensive rookie playing on the 4th line. Alex looks effing lost out there on defense. Romanoff looks effing lost out there on defense.
True. True. All true.
I'm curious what Barry could have done with Romanov, if that would have been more. That Barry did some success jobs with like guys like Brock and Pellick and Mayfield. I'm curious. Like I'm not. It just didn't work out time.
He would have been sitting. He's 22 years old. He would have been sitting.
They would have been double shifting somebody. I tell you one thing, we definitely would not have relied upon Salo and Aho going into the year to be other defensemen. We would have brought in some 37, 38-year-old defenseman who was a free agent who we would have been playing every night.
It would have worked if they brought in Eric Gustafsson.
Oh, gosh, yeah. D-Cut says, if you're a writer, where is your pride? After Lou said something, after Lou said that somebody should have said, hey, Lou, this team has been awful for the last 2 seasons. So I wouldn't be taking shots at fans or writers.
And he absolutely was. Just look at the smile on his face. He was like, yeah, I'm just pacifying you losers.
Yeah, everybody could play Monday morning quarterback. And he's always like, oh, the fans have the right to be. He says one thing but means another. He knows what he has to say because he's been freaking in this game for 50, 60 years. But, as to what actually he means, it's 2 different things.
I think they're afraid of him, and I don't blame them. He's got a gaze that could kill you.
Oh, man, I tell you, I've got no fear that. Here's the thing. My job's not dependent. I can imagine, like, if your job is dependent on, I can get my press pass taken away. It's a completely different mindset, but still.
You know what? I think it'd be funny if somebody threw him a towel and said, here, go comb your hair.
Oh, I thought you said, here you go, throw this in. Or something like that.
Oh, that's pretty good, too.
That's what I was thinking you're going to say, Grumpy.
If you comb your hair, throw in the towel.
Oh, there it is. JG says, wait, TJ. I think I could get the marionette strings. You're a puppet. I think I could see the marionette strings. You're a puppet.
A puppet. You're a puppet. Puppet face Nelson.
Puppet face Nelson. Rich R says here, even last year.
This is Delaney's dad.
This is. He said, even last year, I stayed optimistic. After watching tonight's lethargic first 2 periods, I'm on the grumpy bandwagon.
Don't worry, Rich. Everybody comes over to my side eventually.
There's plenty of room aboard, too. Joseph C says,
no, we won't shame you either. Doesn't matter.
I'm just happy you're here. Joseph C says here, it's a league built on skating, offense, and either balance scoring or top two lines whose talent, could really score.
Physicality has been eliminated from the game. Grinding style does not work long term. Just by the way the game is called and the penalties that are called, a little tap on the wrist to go into the box. Just the game has just changed.
I think the Islanders, were like 3 for 60 on the power play?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
you know what's funny, too, about the Islanders? We talked about before how they are not built to win in the regular season, and they were built to win in the playoffs the last few years, and they got a little bit lucky that first year that COVID struck and gave them a chance at the playoffs. But it's funny that even now, with how bad this roster is, the way that the refereeing goes in the playoffs, they let so much go. I still think the Islanders could give a couple teams runs for their money in a 7-game series just because the game is called differently in the playoffs.
We get away with a lot of that now.
Mm-hmm.
We are clutching and grabbing and hooking and interfering all over the ice. And you know what the referees say? We can't call everything. Just let it go.
Did you see the penalty on Nelson today where I think an Ottawa Senators guy put like a one-handed stick towards his midsection and they called it like a hook or something? Nelson's been drawing a lot of penalties this year.
I'm telling you what, he's getting more respect because he was named to the All-Star team. That's the reason.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I just saw a comment that I wanted to comment myself on. Jake said Brock is a good player who's not going to get better. Time to sell him while his value is highest.
Yep.
I have a very intricate dynasty fantasy league where I had Barzal and I had Matt Duchene, and I flipped Matt Duchene because he had 40 goals last year, and I was like, he's never going to do this again. And I got David Pastrnak.
That's a great deal.
So obviously that's not going to happen exactly that way, but the sentiment is there of, if you try to be ahead of the curve for once and trade a guy and be like, I don't know if he's going to get much better. The tough thing is, I think Brock playing with like, oh man, if Brock was on like Colorado, like how good could he be there? Like him and Taze, that'd be a nightmare because, we'd be watching them win in the cup. But I think it'd be probably good for us long-term because how much better is Brock going to be? This is probably the best he's going to be.
He's in his 30s now.
And he's going to waste away if we're rebuilding next year.
And all right, he might put up better numbers in Colorado. He'd never put up those numbers here.
Yeah, and John asks, who's going to provide the offense then? No one. They're going to suck next year too.
Yep.
Like, this is not a 1-year fix. This is like hoping, to turn it around within 2 to 3.
I was about to say, because at that point, 2 to 3 years down the road, Ratu's 23, 24 years old. At that point, right, you should be able to step up and be, I'm a legitimate number 2 center in the league if I can do what it takes.
Mhm.
You've got guys like Noah Dobson at that point, 2, 3 years down the road. They're like, hey, I'm 26. You should be able to start taking, the line, or 25, 26. They should be able to start taking the lion's share. They should be able to start to step up. And you've got guys like Matt Barzal. He's well into his prime at that point. And you got guys like Wallstrom. If they have anything in the tank, right, he'll be 25 years old, however old at that point. It's like you're getting a whole bunch of guys entering the prime of their career at the same time. And that's how you can really start the ascension back up. But it's going to be rough for a bit, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. B40. Okay, John.
If you're selective in your free agent signings, like whoever trades for Bo Horvat is going to sign him, right?
Correct.
It's just the way it's going to be. But the whole thing is, if you're selective on the guys that you bring in free agency, target younger players that are maybe a little bit under the radar, you can get better faster, and you have to draft well. The draft is the lifeblood of any sports team. You have to draft well.
Yep, I agree. And this is the year to make that mark.
Yep,
this is year to do that. B40 said Barzal is a B+ player. He's not a game-breaking star. I disagree with this.
He's a creator more than he is a star, a goal scorer. That's just his talent set.
I think he's playing injured too. I think that's pretty obvious. You're not seeing the same exact ability for him to control the puck as extensively as he usually does. You're not seeing that from him. You're not seeing him wanting the puck on one more consistent basis. I think he's still banged up. John A says Brock, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, Scott Mayfield, Varlamov, Parise, Garner the most value. Unfortunately, we're going to be stuck with Bailey, Lee, and Bavilli. I think Bavilli is the only person I think I could see being moved to for value. But you look at the pieces we can move: Brock or Jean-Gabriel Pageau, Mayfield, Varlamov, Parise, and then maybe the offseason, right? You're looking at a guy like Bavillier. That's 5 pieces you can move off this team and get legitimate assets back in return.
And that's enough. That's enough guys to move in one off season.
Yep. That's not a full on nuking the team, right? You're saying we're trading the backup goalie. Well, that guy is not playing.
He's a backup.
We're trading the third line left winger in Parise, or kind of jumped all over the place. But a guy who's a bottom 6 winger in Parise. You're trading your bottom 6 defenseman Mayfield, right? But he plays a bigger role than that. But he's the last guy on the totem pole there for the depth chart for the defenseman there. He's a bottom, he's the 6th guy, top 6 defenseman. And you trade Jean-Gabriel Pageau or Nelson, so you're trading your second or third line center.
I'd much rather trade Nelson. He just gets you more trade value.
Exactly. I'm just saying either or, but you got to trade one or the other. Dika, go ahead there.
Oh yeah, no, I have an idea about Sorokin. Try to bamboozle him by extending him now.
That's
so
what you should do.
So that he's stuck. What's that? You're stuck for the rebuild. It's not a full rebuild. Hopefully a retool. But also with Sorokin, I think opportunity probably is another reason for him to stay. He's going to start as many games as he wants to. And there's a lot of teams that aren't in the cap situation to sign a goalie. And if the Islanders can clear their books of a few contracts this year, then they can offer that extension, and it gives Sorokin an incentive to stay if they have a quick turnaround plan. But that probably involves having a new GM with a really tight plan very quickly.
Yes.
When you're interviewing general managers, the interview question is, what are you doing with the team? What type of moves are you making to best position us for success? I mean, like, you pretty much every single one of these general managers have to come up with this saying, this is the exact plan I'm going to put in place. This is how we're going to do it. This is what we're going to look to keep. This is what we're going to look to offload. This is the type of coach you want to bring, because you're going to be starting a brand new vision for the team.
I mean, look at the job that Bill Guerin has done in Minnesota.
Yep. Great
by
job.
Moving or getting rid of unmovable contracts. He just bite the bullet and says, we're going to buy you out. See you later.
And making the hard trade of trading Kevin Fiala this offseason.
Sometimes you got to that's why you get paid the big bucks, to make those hard decisions.
Do you make the right decisions? Do you make the wrong decisions?
God, I would have loved to have Fiala. But I don't know how much better our season is going.
He's a
He'd
piss.
been better than Romanoff. Better than Romanoff.
Yeah.
I mean, more value than Romanoff for us. D-Cut says, TJ, you thought Bellows was a top 6 winger too, you bald-headed jerk. No. I thought Bellows could be an everyday NHLer. Still believe that. I believe he can play every day, even if it's in a bottom 6 role. Absolutely, I believe that. Coach Tommy B says here, trade Mayfield, Varlamov, Parise, Bavillier for now. Run out the Bailey, Clutter, and Martin contracts. Trade Nelson and Palmieri over the next year. Yeah, pretty much every
Nelson now, and I'd explore moving Palmieri in the offseason as well.
Yeah, if the offer's right, sure. Ariel C said, "Oh, go ahead."
I'm curious, just because now I'm interested in the goaltending situation. If you want to have a backup plan for if Sorokin is soured to how things are going, maybe in one of these trades you got to get a backup goalie thrown in that has the capability of like stepping up and maybe being a starter at some point. So I don't know, maybe just something to like keep an eye on if we're trading Varley. Corey Schneider's not probably going to back up a team for a whole year, so they're going to have to look into maybe acquiring a young goalie that's maybe not performing so well right now in whatever return with Brock or Varley or something like that. So I don't know, something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that either. I mean, but if you're able to sign him long term, you could still even get like a guy who's, hey, he's a second, because you're going to have cap space available once you're moving these players. You could take on a contract maybe that won't be great, that has 1 year left on it, to provide another team some cap relief as an additional sweetener in the trade. You have the flexibility to do that once you start making moves. Just can't sit on your hands and say, oh, well, we believe in this team and Lou we trust. That's the shit you can't do. That's why you end up being stuck where you are. Ariel C says, tank to try to get a top 10 pick. Mayfield Mayfield for Besser, straight up. I think it's given up too much for Besser. But Nelson for a first and an NHL-ready young player, like Phil said, Alex Newhook-esque type player. Varlamov, I think we could get a first rounder for. If not, gladly take a second. You can sell and also, or you can sell and also trade for Timo Meier. If you were getting picks back, you could spare a first for a Timo Meier who's 26 and a bona fide 35-plus goal scorer.
No, not trading first-round picks.
Well, that's my point about the mindset. Like that, this is where we're going to get into the different mindsets. When people start saying we need to rebuild, it's, do they want, some people I think are looking for the immediate fix, which I think just prolongs the agony, instead of saying we need to go ahead and build from a foundation we have up.
I would be curious if we were able to get a first out of both Mayfield and Nelson, right?
Certain.
And then we have 3 first-round picks. Then I could be amenable to trading for Timo Meier, because in that way you could say, well, we've got the 2 first-round picks that we could turn into guys in 2 or 3 years. But for now, we could add this 26-year-old that can at least start to make us watchable again and maybe make up for the goals lost trading Brock out. So it depends on how many first rounders we have coming in.
He's going to cost more than a first round pick, though.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. They don't want Mayfield because they're going to be rebuilding. Yeah.
So, like, you look at guys you could sign when you are freeing up this space, right? Like, you could say a guy like, we talked about this before, a guy like Max Pacioretty, a guy who is coming off of righty. I think he tore the same exact Achilles. You could take a flyer on a guy like that on a cheap 1 year prove it type deal. Hey, you want to be able to do this. You might not get offered the same exact amount or have the same exact amount of suitors. You injured back-to-back years. Teams need to be relying on you, right? Max Pacioretty, you might be able to get on the cheap. He's an older guy, but you can afford to pick up an older free agent or a few older free agents on shorter deals as you're getting the young guys ready in the minors. Sure, they're going to help. Like a guy like Vladimir Tarasenko, you don't go out there and say, hey, we're offering you a 6 or 7 year deal. But if a guy like that's willing to take a 3 year contract, you now, as you're transitioning, what you have the ability to sign a guy like that on a 3 year deal. What is that? I mean, like that's like Jonathan Taves. Do you think he signs back in Chicago? I know he plays true center, but like you have the ability and flexibility to kick Jean-Gabriel Pageau out to wing at that point. It just comes down to like what are we looking for in a transition like that? There are guys who will be free agents who can be valuable, but who do you want to take the risk on and the chance on, and how do you want to structure the team?
Well, that's the whole thing, right? You're going to have to be creative. Bottom line, you have to be creative.
Yep. I agree with that. I agree with it. And got a question here. Shay says, oh, did Tom leave?
He's not here right now, so maybe he'll come back on.
Okay, gotcha. Shay says, my question is, if Sorokin does not want to sign an extension this summer, are you willing to trade him? Get something, or what does it say?
Get a ton of assets for him.
Get a ton of assets for him.
I'm going all out to sign him. All out to sign him. I don't even want to think about trading him right now.
If he doesn't sign an extension, you've got to be proactive. You got to trade him away. You can't end up with the Tavares situation 2.0. But
Okay.
let me ask you this: if he doesn't want to sign back, Grumpy, are you still holding on to that contract?
I'm going to say he does want to sign back.
I do too, but there's a possibility maybe he doesn't. But I think he would want to sign back, and if he doesn't, that would be the only time I'd consider moving him, if he doesn't want to sign back.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Freedom Fun Adventure says only a fool would want to trade Sorokin. People say, people may not understand how elite and special he is. He's a Hall of Fame goalie, minus the cups, and the most talented goalie in team history. I agree with some of that for sure.
Same here.
And B40 says, I love Martin, but teams will overpay for him at the deadline. If they do, maybe we move him. A guy like Martin, it's a good point. Martin's having a career. He's having one of the better years in his career.
If someone calls you and inquires about Matt Martin, you move him.
Absolutely.
Move him. It's a fourth liner.
Yep. And I'm trying to look how much time he's got left on his contract. Okay. He's got 1 year left after this contract. So it's not like this is a crazy deal or anything like that. He's got 1 year left. They say maybe Matt Martin still has something left. I would move him in a heartbeat. Nick D says, to Tom, the Grumpy
TJ,
in the curve.
The curve. How you guys doing tonight? I keep reading rumors about the Canucks and Islanders in a blockbuster trade. I'm hoping Lou does nothing and goes peacefully into retirement.
Hopefully, the only thing we're doing is trading away players for picks and assets. That's what we need to do.
All I want to do.
D-Cut says, Lou put a few rumors out there in the media today, and to get some heat off his wrinkled old ass. Don't be so gullible, TJ, is what he says. Oh, here's Tom. What's going on, Tom?
Hey, sorry, my power went out for a sec.
Ooh, a little power outage. But D-Cut says, Lou just put a few rumors out there to the media to take the heat off his old wrinkled ass. I'm not so sure I buy into that. Jackson T says here are my trades: Mayfield to Buffalo for a first and a second. I firmly believe you can get a first and a second, maybe a first and a third. Brock and Bavillier to Colorado for Newhook and a first. Parise and Parise to whoever for a second round pick. Varlamov to the Pens for a first round pick. Use a pick to ship Bailey away.
I don't care about
Bailey anymore.
When I'm not trading away picks to get rid of players.
He's got 1 year left on his deal. Just eat it out. Ride it out.
Way too much. Brock and Bavillier to Colorado for Newhook and a first. It's way too much. Yes. Brock's the best player by a mile in that deal.
Correct.
By a mile.
Yeah.
You say for a second. Yes. Mayfield for a first and second to Buffalo. I've said before that Buffalo's a great location for him. They're a young team that should be buying at the deadline.
And has cap space to where they can offer him a deal for the next year for another maybe 3 or 4 years on the deal for a veteran defenseman to help that team out.
Yes.
What do you think about that, Tom?
Yeah, no, I like a lot of the moves that this guy's listing. Buffalo, it feels like Mayfield's a good presence for a mostly young team that could use a grizzled playoff guy. And I'd love to see Buffalo make the playoffs. They're a lot of fun. I'd love to see Tage Thompson in the playoffs. And, I've got friends from Buffalo, so I think I'd really enjoy seeing them. It would be tough because they would probably be playing Boston. But that's the kind of experience you need, for a young team to maybe get humbled and then come back next year and be really good. So I really like Mayfield to Buffalo. I love Brock to Colorado. I think that makes sense. I like a lot of what was listed there.
And for all it depends there. Yeah. You know, it's funny. We've been thinking about, Grumpy and I have, how the landscape of the Metro Division is in the process of almost like the changing of the guard. And the Devils are one of the first teams to do that. And there will be more in the future. But we talk about kind of like the teams that are older, the Islanders, the Penguins, the Capitals, kind of, you know, on the way out. You know, the Islanders are the first of that bunch. Just we don't have any Hall of Fame caliber players like the other two teams did. But the Penguins and the Capitals are, you know, a little up there in age. You wonder how it's just like, hey, the Rangers are a young team. They're going to be up there for years. The Hurricanes, you know, they've got a good mixture. But the Devils are that young team on the transition. And you look at it, it's like with the Blue Jackets, how many young selections they're getting. And you look at the Atlantic Division where it's like the Sabres are so young. The Red Wings are young. You look at how many of these young the Senators are pretty young too, but it's just like you look at how things are changing.
The Senators still suck though.
This you figure, right? With as many picks as they have, they're going to eventually be able to get it done in the right direction, right? You feel like maybe, right, Grumpy?
Maybe, yeah.
We said that about us for many years.
Very true.
Yeah, I tell you, it's one of those things you see the changing of the guard there. Sal P says, "Good evening, fellas. If this slide continues, how far up the draft order could you see us possibly moving into?"
Maybe top 10.
I wouldn't be opposed or upset with the top 10 selection, not at all. And hey, maybe you go ahead and get a little additional picks. It's more just quantity. The quality in this draft is here, so we need as much quantity as possible, I'm thinking here. Ariel C says, you have to keep trying to lose, get Bedard. The dude is incredible. So, yep, a lot of fans are saying, hey, tank for Bedard, blow for Bedard.
Blow hard for Bedard.
Blow hard for Bedard. Stephen V said, evening, gentlemen. Just got home. I told my brother we were scheduled for an embarrassment against Edmonton, a humiliation with Toronto, and a disappointment against Ottawa tonight. So far, so good.
What about Detroit?
Question.
I mean, my gosh, Detroit, they're mediocre. We seem to be struggling with the mediocre teams as well. But it is a home game. So,
oh, man.
You can't lose to Detroit.
Could you imagine losing to Detroit at home?
And then Vegas. Oh, my gosh. The only thing that could save us, honestly, is the All-Star break.
If you go, let's say we go 1-2 before this All-Star break, I'm pretty sure that's rock bottom. I'm not sure anything can get worse. I'm pretty sure team is just we need to be looking full. There's nobody who could be saying we are optimistic about the team. I think it's really tough right now, you know, one win in the last 11 games, but if you only win one of the next 3, there should be no fan that's saying I think we could be okay. I think that we can make this. Optimism should be gone. Islanders JJ said, I know we're on the Lou bashing, but if he gets rid of Aho, that's one good move. Aho might be one of the worst defensemen I've ever seen.
No. Sorry. I think he's been more than serviceable this year. I mean, as a bottom guy, as a number 6 or number 7 defenseman, what are you expecting?
I didn't know that he was wearing the Romanoff jersey. I didn't know he was wearing 28 tonight.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only thing I could think.
I think Aho's definitely he's not as bad as he was last year or the year prior.
Yeah, because he's been given a legitimate shot and didn't have the axe falling over his head if he made one mistake like it was for Trotz.
I actually ran into him and Simon Holmstrom at the Islanders team store, and my God, I don't know what Aho's height is listed as, but he's the same height as me, and I'm pretty short. So, like, those skates are doing a lot of work for the media day stats.
I think they list him as 5'10". I don't think he's that tall.
Yeah, because I'm like 5'7", and he was pretty much my height.
Yeah.
The truth comes out, Grump.
Also, I felt bad. I recognized Holmstrom because it was right when he got called up. It was the day after he got his first point or something around then. And I recognized Aho. And then I turned to a third guy, and I'm like, and because I know at this point he's definitely an Islander. He's hanging out with the Islanders, and it was Salo, and he had to answer it, and I felt really bad because I didn't recognize it. I asked him to take the photo of me and Holmstrom.
Oh shit!
I mean, that photo's not going to sell for anything.
I mean, in my defense, Salo had not been around very long, and I didn't recognize his face as much as Holmstrom.
when you knew that Robin Salo had no chance with the Islanders is when Tom from the Belmont Bunch went up. He saw 3 individuals, couldn't even point him out, didn't even know what Robin Salo looked like, Grumpy. That's how you knew Robin Salo was done.
I
Very
felt
true.
I felt pretty bad.
Oh, man. Jesus. Well, I know we're here a little more than 3 hours in. Tom, we've got everything linked, by the way. Tom from the Belmont Bunch. You've got on Thursday mornings when you're into work, you got to check out Tom. You got to check out the Belmont Bunch. They come out with their episodes there Thursday morning. But you've got the link to his YouTube and Twitter in the link in the description below. But Tom, what do you want to say before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I guess just at this point, just try to get through to the All-Star break, everyone, and then let's reset mentally from there. Even if we're going back to rooting for the tank, it'll be nice to not watch the Islanders play for a few days. And hey, just hope that Sorokin doesn't get hurt at the All-Star game, and hopefully he does some cool stuff. And yeah, I don't know, just it's been exhausting. There's a lot going on right now, not a lot of it positive. So hopefully Sorokin does something cool with the All-Star game.
I tell you, and I don't disagree. Hopefully everybody stays healthy. It'll be nice to get a little bit of a break from the current skid we're on now, whether it's we get a few wins or we just get a break and don't watch the Islanders for a few days. But Grumpy, what do you want to say before we wrap things up?
I want to say hit the thumbs up button, hit the thumbs up, hit the like, whatever. Spread TJ and the grumpy old man's word. Helps the algorithm, we've been led to believe. Is that what you say?
There it is, Grumpy. You tried. You got all those things that sometimes I say at the beginning, but I forgot to today. That's right, Grumpy. You pretty much got all the points.
Yeah. I just want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens, and even those who don't. From TJ, the grumpy old man, and Tom from Belmont.
There it is. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to the show. Thank you so much, Tom and Grumpy Old Man. Thank you to the listeners of the show. Right? I think that we've always been on the forefront of kind of what's happened for quite some time now. I don't think all is lost. I think there is a way out of this. I think there is a way to do a quick retool that could get this team back to where we could be consistently competitive for a Stanley Cup. And that's the thing. We don't want to be consistently competitive for a 1 or 2 year span where we put a Band-Aid over this. We need to be consistently competitive for a Stanley Cup long term. That's what we want. That's what Islander fans want. I think it's possible. But thank you so much everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Grumpy Old Man. We'll be with you guys this Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Daniel Friedman on the show with us there this Saturday. So thank you so much everybody for listening, and thank you, Tom and Grumpy.
And tomorrow night, TJ and the Grumpy Old Man, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Absolutely. And that's also
we're talking NFL playoffs.
Yep. That's also in the link in the description below and as a featured page on YouTube. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you guys here. We'll see you tomorrow, TJ and the Grumpy Old Man, and Saturday. Thank you so much.